Cause I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burn down the road. Yeah, I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burning down the road. I'm a wheel-born baby. This life never gets old. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Oh, take a ride now on Wheelburner Express. Yeah, Wheelburner Express, baby.
Trucking is great. I don't know about that, bro. If you're rolling down the mile road, loaded or empty, and you're making $5 $5 a mile in all miles, you're doing really well, and that's great. But if you're out there killing it or killing yourself, and you're going home at the end of your tour, and you're falling into bed, or you're falling into bed every night at the end of your day, and you got about enough energy to, maybe look at your phone for half an hour, watch half a movie. I don't know. I don't know if I want to live like that no more. Well, I don't live like that no more, but I don't know if I'd want to if I was. What's going on, Holler? Mark, good to see you, man. I've been doing great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that there are still guys out there and girls that they're still out there and they're still making money and they're still doing well. And they're still enjoying what they're doing. I think that for me was and is one of the biggest problems, or say hurdles, in my trucking career, was that it stopped being fun, and I've lost, or I lost a while ago. I lost the fire. There's no other way I can explain that. I just lost the fire. I lost the desire. I lost that burn. So it's hard to get that back. A lot of times, for somebody like me, you can lose interest in something for a while, and then something will happen, and it'll relight that fire, it'll rekindle that fire. And I'm not talking that's what's going to happen with me with trucking, because it's probably going to be a long time before I even think about getting back into a truck. And if I do, it would probably be on a part-time basis, or even as it won't be. I would never go back out on the highway or do anything like that. So I just don't have it. I have the ability. I can do the job. I have the ability. I can still truck. I can still go out there. I'm not an old man by any means. The body's still there. The brain still works. I can still truck, but there's just no fire, no desire to do it, really. Is it nighttime? No, dude. I just got the lights turned down because until my proper lighting shows up, any lights I put on here, it just messes with the screen. So I've just got the lights turned down. I got 4 monitors running right now, so I'm just taking the light off the monitors, and that's what you see. You see the glare in the glasses. You can see all the monitors. So I apologize for that, but anyway, but it's good to hear. And there's Shannon Thomas. Great to see you, Shannon. Um, there's another example of what I was talking about. There are people out there that are still working it, that are still doing a great job, that are still making money. Um, but when I think back, and Holler, you might be in this category. Um, Dave, you're not so much you, but like Dave Edwards, and it's good to see you, Dave. Thanks for being here, Camille. Good to see you, Frank. Awesome, man. Good to see you. Um, there's there's old timers that are still doing it, and they're not. Sorry, this is bugging me. Um, a lot of us can't get over, and I speak for myself, and I speak to guard dog. He's not here, but he's another old time driver. Tyke Trucking is another old time driver. And these guys, we remember a time when trucking was actually fun. It was fun to get up in the morning and you pull your curtains and you get up and you look around where you are. If you're, everywhere you go, you're in a different place. And that's when trucking was fun. And you'd start your truck and you'd have that, let's get going, let's go, let's run, let's let's drive. Driving your truck wasn't a chore. Um, kind of like it is today. When I finished driving, the worst thing I was dealing with was that goddamn e-log. I never drove so tired in my freaking life ever. My entire career, I was never this tired, um, or that tired. And it was very simply that, you know what, it's you're racing a clock. From the minute you start your clock in the morning, that thing's basically, it's a clock and it's counting backwards. And you've got X amount of time to do X amount of work to get, to the X amount to the end of and to the end of your day and get it done. And if you can't get it done in those e-log hours, there's nothing you can do, right? There's absolutely nothing you can do. You can't circumvent, you can't make corrections, you can't, that's not to say that, with paper logs that we did everything legally. We didn't. So Mark, 25, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you were Mark, when, 10 years, well, 15 years ago, when we were running paper, and we were on paper logbooks, were you ever exhausted at the end of your fucking day because you were absolutely pushing yourself to the limit because you were racing a clock? And all the ramifications that come with that, racing a clock. When you're racing that clock, the ramifications that come with it. They said to us with the e-logs that, it's going to be safer. It's going to force drivers to take breaks. It's going to force you to take that 30-minute break. You won't have drivers that are as exhausted, and they'll be well rested and they'll be healthier. And I called bullshit on all that. Fucking trucking, good to see you. I'm an old time driver, 40 in April. There you go. There you go. So you know what I'm talking about. And then the e-logs came in, and all of a sudden, and that's what you're doing. You're racing that clock. I don't know how many times in a day I used to look down, and because I'd be constantly driving, doing this, doing that. I'm on the phone, making appointments, this and that. Look down. Okay, I've got this amount of time. Then and then I've never looked at that damn iPad, because I had mine on an iPad just off, mounted onto the dash at the side here. I never looked at that damn iPad so many times in my entire life. I never looked, I never ever was driving my truck with a paper logbook and never had to keep reaching over and grabbing my logbook to see, okay, I just didn't do it. Work got done safely. Shit got done on time. Pickups were on time, deliveries were on time. And again, it was fun. There was not the overreach. Surviving with Terry, good to see you, man. There wasn't the overreach of the ministry and all these guys, all these people that are in, the Ministry of Transportation in Canada, the MOT, and the DOT in the United States Department of Transportation. The overreach from those guys. None of them drove trucks. Like the people that are putting the legislation and putting the new rules and guidelines in place. Um, you know, None of them drove truck. None of them have ever been out here doing the job. None of them have ever, had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, start your truck, and run like hell. Get into the city, deliver, work your way through morning traffic into, say, Atlanta, right, or Los Angeles, or Toronto, Montreal. None of them have ever had to get up and at 2 o'clock in the morning, get your truck, work your truck through that traffic, get in, get delivered, and then get to your pickup. And they've never had to do it, but yet they're making the rules by which we all have to live by, and the guidelines for which we all have to be adherent to, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. If all of those guys and girls that are making the legislation to do this, to enforce this on us, I think that every single one of them should be forced to go out into a truck with me for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Go out in a truck with me for 2 weeks. Go out. If you're a lady driver, hook up with Shannon Thomas, or a lady politician, or whatever the hell, legislator. Hook up with Shannon Thomas. Let her take you out there for 2 weeks. I promise you, after 2 weeks, you will come home and you will sleep for 4 days, because you just won't be able to do it. And then you'll be shaking your head going, how do these people do this? You know, I would sit there and easily be able to show you, okay, this is the legislation you've put in place, and these are the rules by which I have to abide by. How about every hour that I'm in this seat awake and working, you have to be in that passenger seat awake and working. You're going to work for 13, 14 hours a day. You ever seen a politician work for 14 hours in a day, or a legislator? Probably not. Probably not. And I pay $110 a month for that. Yeah, so you get to pay $110 for the pleasure of racing that clock. Fucking trucking, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yes, yes. Years ago, we used to have paper. Yes, on occasion, you'd have two logbooks, depending on what you were doing, where you were going, and whatnot. But I can tell you this: the accident rates back then, you know, per capita, if you whatever area you live in, or whatever, United States, Canada, whatever, the accident rates were not as high. There weren't as many truck-related accidents on the road. There wasn't as many drivers falling asleep behind the wheel. There wasn't as many, collisions. There wasn't as many problems. All it takes, but all it took was, one, two, maybe three serious bad accidents involving transport trucks, and all of a sudden, all these new rules come up. All this new shit comes up, and that's what we got hammered with. It's not because they said they did all these divine studies, of, oh, if we do this, it'll reduce that. If we do this over here, it'll reduce that. I call bullshit on that. I really do. If you want to put rules and regulations and legislate trucking and transportation, start with the licensing. That's where you should be starting. You shouldn't be starting with us out on the road, the guys that have been doing it for fucking all our lives. You don't start with us. You don't handicap us and then work backwards. You start with the new drivers. You start with the schooling. You start with the ministry, getting them their education. You start with that. You make it harder for people to get a commercial driver's license. That would be where I would start. Start with that, and then work your way forward. Don't go to the end of the line, which is me, the owner operator, or the truck driver that's been out here driving all these years, and start working and start banging rules and regulations off of me, and then start working your way backwards. It doesn't work that way, and it's shown. The ministry and I don't know, fucking trucking. How many years has the ELOG been implemented? Mark, I don't know. I can't remember what year it came in. What was that, like 2015, 2016? I know it had been around since like 2010, but it wasn't mandated. You didn't have to use it. And then it was what 15 or 16 when the e-logs finally were mandated, and they came in, and every carrier had to have it if you were running the US. For example, in Canada, if you run Canada only and you don't cross the border, you can still run paper, I think. I don't think it was. I think they're looking at mandating it, or maybe they have by now. But the last time I checked, you can still run paper in Canada. But if you are to cross into the U.S., you have to be e-log compliant. So 90% of the carriers up here are exactly that. They're e-log compliant. And again, you're handcuffing. You're already giving me a job to do, right? You're giving me a job to do. You're going to make me work 70 hours a week, and you're going to push me for all 70 of those hours. You're telling me I've got a job to do. You're telling me that I've got, these responsibilities, and I'm carrying either your name on the door or my name on the door. And this is my job. These are my responsibilities. And then you're saying, okay, go to work. But as I'm going out the door to go to work, you handcuff one of my hands behind my back, right? And then eventually it comes to the point where you handcuff both hands behind my back. Well, how am I supposed to go to battle with both hands tied behind my back? And that's what we're doing out here when we're trucking. It gets to the point where you're waking up in the morning and you're going to war, you're going to battle, especially if you're an owner operator, because you're going to battle for your own livelihood. Not only are you supporting yourself, but you're trying to run a business at the same time. And it's like taking a knife into a gunfight. If you're going to handcuff me, put both hands behind my back, that's not a fair fight. That's not a fair fight. But you're not giving me the option to fight back in a legal way. I can lawyer up and go start fighting the government, but like, come on, man, that's been done. It's been tried. The e-logs are here. They're not going anywhere, and that's unfortunate. um you know but then on the other hand, like I was discussing yesterday, um there are rules that do make sense, and finally they hit one, right? They finally hit one that I actually agree with 100%, 100%. And if you've been out here a long time, I would assume, fucking trucking, and Mark and all those guys, we're all shaking our heads going, Jesus Christ, it's about time. And that was the one where the English compliancy, where you have to be only in Canada mandate in about a year ago. Okay. All right. So I was off by a year, Mark. That's not bad for me. I was only off by a year. Usually I'm off by a decade. But the one thing I do agree with was that the English compliancy. You have to be efficient or proficient in English. You got to be able to read it and write it. You got to be able to communicate effectively with an MTO or a DOT officer, or a police officer, or an official of some sort. TJ, good to see you, man. Top of the woods, top of the woods, top of the morning, bowl of the woods. I've only had a cup of coffee this morning, so I'm still working on this, TJ. I apologize. But again, getting back, I do agree 100% with the policies of the you have to be proficient in English. Um, and the Americans are pounding it right now, and good for them. Like the DOT in the US is absolutely pounding this. There's stories every single day of trucks being pulled into the way stations, and they're being asked questions and talking. If you can't answer the questions, you can't talk in English, your truck comes off the road. That load gets impounded, right? And you're put out of service. And then it falls on the carrier to either recover that load, or the load broker, right? Because you got that load from somewhere, so it falls upon either the carrier to recover the load, the load broker to recover the load. Nobody's getting paid on that deal, right? Now, but I'm thinking that's one of those areas where that's fantastic. Hurt them bad. If you hurt the carrier, or you hurt, not so much the carrier. I don't want to see carriers get hurt. No noticeable change in English proficiency down here. Well, I every day I'm looking around, and you're seeing them on YouTube and on other platforms that guys are getting, they're getting pulled into the scales, and they're getting pulled out. Maybe it's not enough. You got to remember, what is there, 285,000 truck drivers in the United States. So if they're pulling off 20 a day, that's not a big number, right? It's not news making, or it's not big, but it is enough to start sending a signal. And Perfect. Sorry, we ordered a new mattress and I just got a confirmation of delivery. So perfect. Can't wait to get onto that. Um, I don't even know where the hell I was going with that, but anyway, the English proficiency, I do agree with it. Even if, like I said, it's only making a tiny scratch, but it is still sending a message. When carriers start losing money because their loads are getting impounded and they either have to recover them or the brokers have to get involved. And I think we were talking yesterday, and TJ, I'd be interested in how you feel about this and your input on this. Hey, Jerome, good to see you. Jerome Jones, good to see you, man. Um, where is the line of accountability on this? Okay. Now, um, the truck comes into the scale. They talk to the guy. They speak to him. They've judged, okay, you are not going to pass this test, this English test, or however they do it. You're not going to pass this test. We pull the truck off the road. Where is the line of accountability? Where do you start with the accountability on this? Is the line of accountability the driver? Well, the driver may only be driving the truck. He may be a company driver, or he may be a driver driving an owner operator's truck. So that would be the bottom of the ring, right? So you are going to ding him and you're going to impound the load. Or do you penalize the carrier? Okay. Go after the carrier. So, the carrier obviously took the load from the load broker and dispatched that load to one of his drivers. Okay, so do we draw the line there? Does the carrier take responsibility for that? Do they take the beat down on that? Do they take the responsibility and incur the penalties and fines or whatever they're doling out? Or to take it one step even farther, TJ, do we take it up to the broker? Okay. Now, Bull, let's just say you're a load broker, right? And you've got a load running from Tucson to Boston. Okay. It's X amount of dollars, it's X amount of miles. I'm a carrier and I call you and I can speak English, whatnot, whatever, somewhat, kind of. And then I take the load off of you and I dispatch it to one of my guys who can't speak a lick of English, but he's going to run that from Tucson to Boston. Does that fall upon now the load broker? The broker already knew that that load was probably going to be on the road being pulled by somebody or a company that is not proficient in English and that would not pass the test. But he wants that load moved and he wants that money that bad. He'll gamble on that. So do they go up to that level there and ding the broker? So where is the line of accountability and responsibility here? Who takes the biggest beat down on this? Is it the driver, the carrier, or the owner of the truck? It could be either. It doesn't have to necessarily be a carrier. But is it the driver, say the carrier or owner of the truck, or is it the load broker? There's only three levels, right? There's the broker, the carrier level, and then the driver level. Or unless it's being double brokered or bullshit like that. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that with this proficiency thing, that somebody's going to call in and go, hi, Mr. TJ, Mr. Bull of the Woods. Yes, I'd like to buy your load, or I'd like to take this load. What's the rate? We negotiate, and my English is perfect. And then he's going to double broker it and it's going to go off somewhere else. And Ukdug Daliwell is going to be pulling that load. And there's not a chance in hell that guy's going to pass a test. So where, it's one of those windy rivers of every time you go around another turn around, you come around the bank of the river, you're going to be, faced with another person or another level. But what level? Where do we hold that? It's just quite, I've just been blabbing here, so I'm just going to quickly look because I know you guys are seriously talking in the comments here, so I want to see what you're saying. Not even scratching the surface. Okay. Everything takes time and consistency is the way. I agree with that. Bull, I 100% agree with that. This is not something that's going to change like that overnight. This will not happen. Today's Saturday. It's not going to happen, by Monday morning. Obviously, I see that. And I know that. And Bull, we've been doing this long enough. We know that nothing in trucking happens overnight. You don't even get paid, overnight. So, but on the other hand, if we're patient and we watch, sure. Fortunately, I was out of the game before lugs came mandated, and here in Nova Scotia, I always ran paper. It's the company who hired the driver. So you believe it's the company, it's the employer. Let's just say not the company, because like I said, you could be a company driver or you could be driving for an owner operator, but it's basically the owner of the truck, right? So if it's a company, Werner, Schneider, whatever, whoever it is, or if it was, say, me and I own the truck and I've got a driver driving it, you're saying that it's the company who hired the driver. That's where the fine should go, and that's the level we should go to. Still stuck in customs. Yeah, I get it. I saw the other day US had pulled over 170,000 trucks off the road. Yeah, and that's just, like I said, that's just scratching the surface, right? That's just scratching the surface, man. Vetting is the key, starting from hiring to the broker. I agree. I agree. But you know, the problem is there's going to be loopholes, and the more money you have, the better the chance you have of getting through the loopholes. Um, I myself personally, and this is just my personal opinion, guys, right? This is nothing. I myself personally, I'd start with the load broker. Okay. And I would, as a broker, I would have it set up on my site, because obviously you're pulling loads off a load board, and you click on that load and you'll check the load and da 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 da. But somewhere in there, it should tell you, it should say, there should be a warning on there saying this broker or this brokerage is compliant with DOT regulation, whatever this is, 170952 dot dash NFL, whatever. And we will not sell loads, or we will not provide loads to anybody that cannot pass that test, or cannot be compliant with that regulation. It should be right on there. Now, I don't know if they are or not. I don't know if anybody's started doing this. I don't look at the load boards anymore. Shannon Thomas would be a really good example to ask, because she does. She runs her business. She runs for Jeff Like Trucking, but Shannon actually runs her own trucks, and she's pulling loads off the load board. So she would be the person to probably ask to see if any of these brokers, whether it be QTL or Schneider or any of them, are actually doing something. And that is where I would start with. I would say, okay, now you've put that warning on there. Anybody calling in, you have to be compliant with this rule and regulation. And if you're not, don't call. Simple as that. Just don't call. The best news is the new federal DOT mandate that all states have 30 days to comply with the new rules, and states have to audit all CDL licenses and stop giving non-domiciles. I'd like to see that happen. I really would. It's called common sense for public safety, but Scott Elliott, that's a great comment. It really is, and I 100% agree with you. But common sense these days in 2025 is something that's pretty much been thrown out the goddamn window, my friend. Right? It really, truly has. It's not something that is used, because common sense is not something that's taught to you. It's something that you're born with. Either you have common sense or you don't. Right? Why do you think they put fucking warning labels on coffee cups? Right? Simple as that. My idea is to take the warning labels off everything and let nature sort out the world. Boy, population would shrink quickly, but that's another subject. It's called common sense. Common sense these days, unfortunately, doesn't work. And some of that is also for the reason that people are scared to use their own common sense, because they don't want to be wrong. They're scared to be wrong. They're scared they're going to make a mistake. Nobody wants to make a mistake. Everybody wants to be, on the straight and narrow PC, and nobody's willing to stand up and go, I'll take a gamble on this. There's no common sense. If there was, Scott, I agree 100%. I really do. Good morning, old man. And Chuck, good to see you, dog. Damn good to see you, brother. You got some time this morning there, dog, or are you going to be running out the door to wrestle alligators, lasso horses, or anything like that? Skippy. Nice name. Are you Canadian? Skippy, yeah, I'm Canadian. I live out in Strathmore, Alberta. To get the biggest change is when someone looks at the insurance company effects on the trucking industry. Well, you know what? I agree to a degree with that, but I don't think anything's going to affect, and nothing. I'm not going to say nothing. I don't think that anything can really affect the insurance companies. The insurance companies are going to do what the insurance companies want to do, unless the federal government level, the top government level, whether it be Canada, US, unless they step in and will say, okay, this is the most you can charge for insurance. Insurance companies will then have to start regulating or adapting and improvising and whatever. But I don't think we need to start at the insurance company level, because if a load here's an example, dog. If I'm driving a load and I can't speak English, the guy whose truck I'm driving, he can't speak English, and we took it off a broker. And the load gets impounded and it gets pulled off the road. Truck gets pulled off the road, loads out impounded. Who's the insurance company? Well, how does the insurance company get involved in that? Right? Is the broker now calling or going after the carrier's insurance company to make up the loss for that load? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. That won't happen. And especially with most of the bigger carriers, I think most carriers in Canada, once you're over 100 trucks, most of them are self-insured for the first 5 million anyway. So they're just going to giggle at you and you say, kick rocks, see you later, adios, get out of here. Guard Dog agrees with Shannon Thomas. A lot of people do. I'm one of them. Manthan, good to see you, man. How are you? Are we getting cooked before the decade? I don't know. Harper. Cooked as in which way? Is the world going to shit and going to blow up before the decade? Possibly. Are you going to sit down on your couch and light a bong and hit it and get cooked before the decade? Probably a better chance of that. Dude, I don't know. Brokerage won't care. They'll go for the cheapest hauler. And that's pretty much what they do now, right? They negotiate everything for the cheapest rate to get that freight, because they've already got a price, right? So let's say they've got the load from the shipper, and it's $3,000. They're going to post it for fucking $1,500 and see if anybody's dumb enough to take it for $1,500, because they want to make $1,500 on that load. They want to make as much money as they possibly can on that load. And that's how that works. And that's why you negotiate. And I think it's hilarious when you're talking to a broker and he's got a load for $1,500 and he's going, and you go, well, I need $2,300 for this load, or I need $2,400 for this load, blah, blah. And he goes, I can probably come up to about $1,750. Bullshit. These brokers got more into this than they do. Okay, that if they're selling it for $1,500, they're not taking a dipping loss or a huge loss, or they're not taking, if it's $1,500 and just say they got it for $3,000, they'll come up to say $2,000 and still make $1,000 on it. Their strategy is to keep it as low as possible to find out who's dumb enough to take it, and there are people out there that do it. That's why you negotiate with brokers. I don't think I've ever seen anybody just simply go, oh yeah, $1,500. Oh, I'll take that. Yeah, no problem. If you're one of those guys and you do that, give your head a shake. That broker's laughing all the way to the bank. He only needs to sell one more load that day, or move one more load that day, and he's going home. He'll be home by 9 o'clock in the morning. Common sense. I like that. Common sense doesn't apply. It doesn't exist now because there's no app for it. Yeah, you have to be told now what is common sense and what isn't common sense, instead of applying it to yourself and just using your own. Good afternoon, Carlos. Good to see you. Rolling. Have a great day. Fucking trucking. Good to see you, man. Thanks for your input. What's the biggest shit you ever took? Casey, you wouldn't want to be there for that. I know there's a lot of Asian truckers in North America willing to undercut the local truckers in terms of pay. Is the long requirement born out of that? Is the what? What's to stop them from becoming a D1 proficient? That's a good question. And you are right in an aspect. What has happened in Canada is that we've got carriers, and then say the immigrant truckers come in and they'll drive for somebody for a couple of years, then two or three of them will get together and they'll open their own carrier. And then what they will do is they will hire nothing but their own, relatives, friends, their own countrymen, whatever, but they will pay them much less. Why? And the drivers will take it. I know there's carriers, there's two of them in Alberta right now that their drivers, their company drivers are running around at about 44 cents a mile. Why? Because 44 cents a mile equates to, let's just say they're taking home $700 a week. That's like winning the fucking lottery from the country, from wherever they come from, right? So they and the carriers, so they're taking advantage of their own people, and they do it all the time. They do it all the time. And that's not to say that there's not North American carriers that don't do that. There are North American carriers that, they can afford to pay you 75, 80 cents a mile, but they're only going to pay you 50 if they can get away with it, if you'll accept it. The problem is that with the carriers, even the large carriers, TransX, Schneider, Warner, fucking Swift, all of those carriers that carry company drivers, every single one of them is in business to make money. And part of the money is to try to keep the driver's salaries as low as possible. It doesn't mean they're trying to run you into the dirt and run you broke. They wait till you're an owner operator before they try to do that. But what they do is, if in their budget on their loads over the schedule of a day, however many loads, they will average it out and go, okay, we're making X amount of money. Here's the profit on this. But because we're only paying our drivers, say 55 or 60 cents a mile, they could afford to pay 75 to 80 cents a mile, but they're not going to, and they're not going to come forward and tell you that. With all the wars going on, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Unless the politicians getting the campaign contribution, aka bribes, steps and controls the other laws, the rules that are lax and affect the brokers. Unless the feds have let the run with no rules. Johnny, are you drinking already? Just asking for a friend, right? Just asking for a friend. I think again, this is just my opinion, and you can argue with me, or you can debate it with me, or discuss it with me, but it's just my opinion. I think federal government regulations, or the federal government itself, should back itself out of the trucking industry. I do. I honestly do. I think that the federal government and the people that are put in place to legislate, like I said earlier, they're not qualified to be doing what they're doing. They're not qualified. Maybe they're qualified politicians, they're qualified rule makers for other things. But when it comes to transportation in this country, in the United States, there's not a politician out there that's qualified to make rules, regulations, and guidelines for us to abide by. None of them. Okay, let's just say I don't know how many politicians there are in the United States. There's fucking got to be hundreds of thousands of them, federal, state, municipal, blah, 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 whatever. There might be a very, very small percentage of them that have ever driven a truck, been in the business, been in the industry, been truck owners, or whatever. There's always going to be a small percentage, but that's nowhere near enough. These guys that are making the rules and regulations, if you look at the rules and the regulations and the way they're being weaved into the industry, at the end of the day, there's a dollar value attached to that. Who's profiting, or who's benefiting from that dollar value? It's not me, the owner operator. It's not me, the truck driver, company driver. It's not me, the carrier. Now, the guys at the ownership groups of the carriers at the carrier level, now they carry a little more weight, so they can get things maybe moved around, and they do through the FSMCA and in Ontario and Canada's the OTA and the ATA in the US and all the different types. They have more of a pull. They have more pull, and they have a bigger word, but that's only because they're contributing millions of dollars to these politicians. If you're a politician and you're getting, say, $5 million a year from the trucking industry, well, you know what? You're going to have to abide by something that they want, because they just gave you $5 million. A guy like me, I'm going to give you my yearly donation of $25. And what am I going to get for that? That's what I'll get. Thanks for your $25. Wouldn't it be better, be a better policy to have a normal national minimum wage for truckers rather than a long requirement? You know what? I don't know how that would work. Um, Partly, Mantham, because different carriers make a different amounts of money. So it would be a hardship for a guy, say, that owns 5 trucks, right? And if, say, the national minimum wage was, and we'll do it by the mile. Let's say the national minimum wage in Canada, the US, was 60 cents a mile. That might be a hardship for a guy like that. Maybe he can afford 50 cents a mile or 55 cents a mile. I'm just using these numbers. This is not what the averages are. People are making more than 50 cents a mile, but it could be a hardship on that case, in that case, to the carrier. Is that fair to the carrier? Maybe not. And then there's, the other people out there are going, well, that's fine. Then just that'll force out all the shitty little carriers. Well, you know what? I hate to tell you this, but there's more independent truck drivers and shitty little carriers are out there. If you add them all up in North America, there's more of them than there is on the big three, right? On the megas. That's so what are you doing? You're going to remove all of that and you're going to let the big three come in and wipe us all out? They've been trying that for years. Schneider, Warner, Swift, Knight. Well, Swift and Knight are the same company. I think they're the biggest in the world right now. But, they would love nothing more than have the whole monopoly on the whole trucking game. And to a sense, they have a little bit of a monopoly on it. Because why? Because they're throwing money at the federal government or the different organizations that regulate the trucking industry in North America. It's my first sip of an orange Coke. Never had it before. Victoria and I were having lunch and the other day, and one of her girlfriends was walking by, and she had one of these things, and she goes, "Oh yeah, it's delicious." Da da da. And I've never tried it, so I saw it at Walmart yesterday, and I got it. And you know what? It sucks. That is terrible shit. Coke, you should be ashamed of yourself for doing that. Jesus. I'm going to go out and water my lawn with that. 20% or equals or minus the figure of the start of the negotiation. It will never be a fair negotiation, guard dog. Not at this time right now. Who's gonna negotiate, dog? Are you gonna trust me to negotiate for you? Are we gonna trust Shannon Thomas to negotiate for us? Some of us are gonna go, yeah, yeah, yeah. But once you've got 50,000 people behind you, there's gonna be a good portion of them going, oh, I don't know if I trust her with my vote or my money or my livelihood or my income. I'm just using Shannon Thomas as an example. She's an exemplary woman, and I would trust her with my life and my money. But I certainly, if it was Carlos Luis Lopez Bazara, would I trust him with my livelihood? I don't know who that is. I don't have a clue. Would I trust him that he's going to go and fight for my interest and what's in my best interest? I don't know. That's how do you do that? Who does the negotiating, dog? They've already got their side set up, right? The negotiators are already set up on the other side. The FSMCA's got they got lawyers on standby, at $800 an hour, just waiting for the phone to ring. They've got, people that have been negotiating and training for this kind of shit for fucking 20 years. So who do you trust? What do you think about demanding a $5 per mile minimum or 3 or 4? Again, Shannon, it sounds good in theory. But look all the way up the chain. And I'm sure you've already thought of that before I even made the comment. So if for example, Shannon, if you're an owner operator, you own your truck, you're on with you're doing well, you're using your load board. And if it was, let's just use, you said 3, 4 or a 5, 3, 4 or $5. So let's use the $4 in the middle. So let's say it's a $4 a mile minimum. that $4 a minimum is never going to move. Every load will be $4. That's it. $4. Nothing. Well, you'll never make more than $4 a mile. On top of that, somehow or another, what will happen is the brokers or the receiver or the shippers who are paying the freight, brokers pick up the load or take the load off them and they sell it. But whoever's paying the freight bill is going to start finding ways to ding you. Okay, it's a minimum $4 a mile, but you have to be here exactly 15 minutes before your appointment time. You have 30 minutes to get it off. They will find, or it's going to be $100 penalty for this. 100. I'm not a fucking genius by any means, but I can sit here right now and I can pull out probably about 30 loopholes that would say, okay, Shannon, we're going to pay you $4 a mile for every single load, but you, like I said, you've got to be here at this time. You can, if your appointment's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 3:01, okay, your rate is now half. You're going to get half of that. There's way too many loopholes to get around on that. It's the basic law of capitalism. I'm paying the highest revenue possible using the minimum to invest. It is, Carlos, that you're 100% right. But it's like that in just about any business, right? You're not in business to break even. You're not in business to lose money per se. Most people, there are people, Elon Musk, he makes more money losing money than anybody in the world. But guys like me or Shannon or TJ or any of these guys that have been out here and been owner operators, and I'm not here to break even. I'm here to make a profit. And a profit is simply defined as after everything's been paid. After everything from the lights all the way down to the salaries, everything's been paid. Whatever's left over, and you've got nothing to spend it on. You've got nothing to use it for. That's a profit. It's impossible. Every company out there wants to do it. Now, I've been guilty of it myself. I have. I know I can get or pay this guy to do the job. I can pay this amount to get the guy to do this job. But I'm going to see if I can pay him only this amount and, keep a little more in my pocket. You're right. Absolutely 100%. Trucker made the demand before even had a huge group. That went nowhere because the mega carriers won't have it. And that's what I'm talking about, right? That's what for pay. And dog, that's what I'm talking about. But it's not just pay. The megas also have their hand in they don't make the rules and regulations, but they have some pull either way when a new rule or new regulation is proposed. Believe me, the FSMCA, they know about it. Every OTA knows about it. All these groups know about it, and the mega carriers, they will pipe in on it, and they will be able to maybe sway it. They can't change it or write it or rewrite it, but they can certainly sway it. And most of the time they're trying to sway it into their favor. Low salary, high profit. Crag Rat, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What's good pay for a company driver these days? Charles, to be honest with you, in Canada, I know that the Canadian company drivers, they'll go basically, I think the low end of the scale right now is somewhere around 50 to 55 cents a mile. And we're just talking regular freight van. You're talking van freight, right? 50 to 55 cents a mile, and it can go upwards to about 70, 71, 72 cents. Companies up here that are doing flatbed, and I'm not talking oversized or heavy haul or anything like that. Those guys there are usually starting, new drivers are probably starting somewhere around 55 to 65 cents a mile, and they're upwards of almost 80 cents a mile. And that's in Canada. In the US, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what a good paying. If I had to sit there and just do some quick mental math like I am now, even as a US driver, I don't think I'd want to work for less than 60 cents a mile. Right? And you also have to pin that against, Charles, you got to pin that against the experience. Let's just say, Charles, you're a 20-year veteran, okay, and you've got a proven track record, you've got a clean CVOR, you got a clean commercial license, You know, you've got like I said, you've got a proven track record, then you should be at the top of whatever pay scale that company's offering you. So if the top of the pay scale is, if they're starting their guys in the US at 50 cents a mile and the top guys are making 64 cents a mile, you should be making 64 cents a mile. I do believe in that. I agree, but they won't get the fuck out. They're like they're like squatters. That's what you're calling them. They're squatters. I'm enjoying this live stream with a fresh espresso, my power coffee concoction, and perfectly pitched poached eggs, all made in the truck. Feeling unstoppable. Well, you know what, sweetheart, get it done. Get it done. Oi, oi, just there's Tyke waiting for customs to pull me in the shed and take the load off. Jesus, dude, you've been there since yesterday. Hopefully, Tyke, everything's all right. I gotta ask you though, have you got your ass lubed up? You know, when they do the snap and give you the old rubber glove, you know, just make sure you're ready. They should pay company drivers by the hour, not by the mile, which would be much better. Well, Mark, I'm going to be honest with you. Robert tried that, and you know who Mark, you know who Robert is, out of Boucherville, out of Quebec, Canada. They did that, and they ran, I think, a 2 year experiment trial with it. They were paying their drivers by the hour, knowing that the drivers were, you know, and they would only pay their drivers for all of their drive time and on duty time, you know. So when you took your 30-minute break or any off duty time that you logged on your e-log, you didn't get paid for. But anything that was driving or on duty, they paid you for. And I don't think they made it work. I think, Mark, that because they weren't paying, it's not like they were paying these guys $35 an hour. Right, they took the average, and it's not hard to do. I've done it myself. You take how many hours, you know, the average driver works. Let's say there's a 70-hour work week. The guy's going to average 62 hours a week. Okay, so then the national average for minimum wage is this. The local drivers are making this, and then you take all those numbers and you put them together and you come up with an hourly wage. They were paying their guys $21 an hour, and there's no overtime after 40 hours or 44 hours a week. It's straight wage. So they couldn't make it work. It wasn't worth it. You're better off making 55 cents a mile for all miles paid as a company driver, because as long as the wheels are turning on that truck, you're getting paid for it, right? You don't have to worry about taking your 30-minute break. You don't have to worry about, you got to take it, but you don't have to worry about not getting paid for it. And I think Robert now has switched back. I'm pretty sure now they've switched back that all of their drivers now, all of their company drivers are now paid by the mile. You're back to being paid by the mile. I don't think there's a lot of companies in Canada, and I think there's a few in the US that pay their drivers by the load. But that's not an area that I've ever walked through. It's not an area of trucking that I've ever been in. As for company drivers, where you're paid, this. I know that TMC pays their guys. TMC is the largest flatbed carrier in North America. Out of where are they? I think they're out of Des Moines, Iowa. So I think that those guys there are paid by the load. So if this load goes from here to here, it's $250, and you get it done, and it's a $250 load. But I don't know of a lot of other carriers that are doing that with company drivers. Owner operators, oh hell yes. They got lawyers and people like I do on call. Yeah, but their pockets are a lot deeper than yours. It's great that you got it, but believe me, if you got to go to war with the FSMCA, or you're going to go to war with any of the federal compliancy levels, dude, you're not going to. They're going to bleed you dry. You're going to lose. You'll lose your truck, your house, your car, your farm, your horse, your alligators, everything. You'll lose it all. I'm a Spanish Catholic communist nurse. Imagine the negotiation. Hey, dude, I'll negotiate for you. I really will. Is your StreamYard set up yet? Well, as far as I know, I'm using it right now. Am I not? I didn't have an email for you. I threw a couple links out there. I emailed a couple links out this morning just to see how this was working. Again, because I haven't used StreamYard in a long time. It's been a while. So I thought that, okay, I think I threw out 4 emails this morning to four different dog. I looked for your email, and for some reason it's not in my phone. It's not in my phone. So, um, I was going to say email me, and that way it'll save automatically. Uh, and then, I can at the beginning of before I go live and I send out some links, I'll be happy to I'll throw a link out to you and bring you in, and we can, we can sit and talk trucking all day long. I'm rather enjoying the talking about the trucking, and I'm enjoying the business and everything like that, because we haven't done it in a long time. It's been a long time. Usually we come in here and we get this going, and it's a shit show, and we got 1,000 trolls going through here, and we're dealing with all that. And I'm kind of really enjoying let's talk about trucks, let's talk about the business, let's talk about the people, let's talk about the drivers, let's talk about the families, the people that are supporting these drivers while they're gone for 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks at a time. I will drink cold coffee before I will drink this orange Coke. Yes, I will. I had to try it one more time to make sure I wasn't just. That's gross. Anybody try that shit? Ugh. It tastes like orange metal. Coca-Cola, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm a huge supporter of Coca-Cola. I drink Coke products. You should be ashamed of yourself for that. That's disgusting. Tyke's going to be a U.S. custom hand puppet. I don't think so. There's one thing I can probably say about Tyke is by the time he's done in customs, he'll probably have at least 2 or 3 of those fuckers dancing around to his tune. I don't think I'd want to cross Tyke at customs if I was a customs officer. See, dog. Okay, I got it. I texted you. Texted. I got it. It's right here. Same with 2-4. I sent 2-4 a link this morning. He just said he never got it, but sorry. I can't be held responsible for my own inactions. I'm not going to go live now. Not a good idea. Hello, I have a question. Andrew, if you've got a question, I may not have the answer, but chances are I know somebody who does. So if you've got a question, fire away. It's illegal to pay per mile in the EU, so most drivers get paid by the hour or per day plus expenses. I know Tyke, that a friend of mine, Pat in Germany, he pops in here once in a while. He's paid by the day, and actually it's basically broken out to the month, by the month, so he knows exactly what he's salary basically is what it is, right? Yes, he's paid by the day, but if you break it down, it's if you're paid the same amount every single day for regardless of how much work you do, you're basically salary. So at the end of the month, at the end of the year, he knows exactly how much money he's made because he's salaried. And if he gets a raise, if he's making £200 a day, he gets a raise to £225 a day. The salary gets adjusted accordingly. I didn't know that it was illegal to pay per the mile. I didn't know it was illegal. I just thought they didn't do it. I thought it was just something that it was easier to pay them by the day or put them on salary. Excuse me. Yeah, but a driver can sit in a loading dock for 10 hours or more doing produce. I sat in a loading dock in Arizona once for 38 hours for free. It's fucked. Mark, I agree with you. But do you think, okay, let's just say that you're working for Wheelburner Express Incorporated and you're driving for me, and you roll into downtown, you roll into the food terminal in Los Angeles. And even though your appointment's at 2 p.m. and you're there at 1:45, so you're early, and you sit there for 38 hours, do you think for a minute that me as the carrier, I'm going to pay you 24 or 23 or whatever the hourly salary is. I'm going to pay you for 38 hours. I might pay you for the time you've got left on your logbook, because in 38 hours, you're going to have to take a 10, right? You're going to have to go to bed. So I'm going to pay you for, let's say you got 4 hours left on your day. I'm going to pay you for those 4. I won't pay you for the 10. And then you're going to want me to pay you. So that's 14 hours, right? And then there's another 10 hours that I'm going to, 11 hours I'm going to pay you for, right? Do you think I'm going to pay all of that? No carrier is going to pay that, because that carrier has to go somewhere and get compensated for it. Otherwise, they're going to lose 400, $400 to $500, $600 on the load. They'll come out as a negative. No carrier is going to do that. When we get retention time, for example, when I would sit somewhere and the 2-hour limit was up, because we got to give them 2 hours for free to get loaded and 2 hours for free to get unloaded. When that 2 hours was up, at the 2 hour and 1 minute mark, I was on the phone, or I was actually sending email, because you want to leave a paper trail. Don't ever do it over the phone, because then they'll go, I don't remember that phone call. But if there's a paper trail, there's a paper trail. I would be sending my email going, okay, your 2 hours are up, and I'm billing you now for driver retention. And who do you bill? Who pays that? The broker. Do you think the broker is going to pay you for 38 hours? Not a chance in hell. So in theory, Mark, yeah, it's a good idea. It'll never happen, because the carrier is not going to pay you, because the carrier can't go back to the broker and collect and make and pull 38 hours worth of salary or wages out of the broker. Because we're also, remember this as well, Mark. If your carrier, let's say you're a mileage driver, but if you're a company guy and you're sitting getting retention, they're paying you what, 21, 22 bucks an hour. But that carrier is actually billing the company probably somewhere north of 45 to 50 bucks an hour, right? Because you don't realize it, Mark, but they're making money on you sitting there. They make money on you sitting there. So if you're sitting there, and it used to burn my ass as an owner operator, that my hourly rate for sitting was $55 an hour. But as an owner operator, the company I'm leased on with, they're billing over $75 an hour. And the only reason I know this is because my name is Brian, and there was somebody else in the office that was Brian, and somebody was sending an email from one part of the office to the other about another driver and the customer and the retention hours that they were billing for. And it was laid out right there in front of me. And I'm going, holy shit, they're paying this guy they're paying this company guy $21 an hour, and they're billing out at 50 bucks an hour. So they're making money on that. But at the end of the day, Mark, they're not going to go. They're going to have to go back to the broker to pull that money back, to get that money back. So they're not going to pay you for it, because they know that the broker is going to tell them to go piss up a rope. Can someone please explain, why do America have HOA, but in Australia we don't? I don't have a clue, man, because I'm not American, and we don't have HOA in Canada. As far as I know, we don't. I've never lived anywhere where there was an HOA, homeowners association. No. What's going on, batshit crazy? Good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Tyke, I used to run tip load and mileage. There's different ways to do it. I think I didn't know that it was illegal, but Cragrat saying tip load and mileage. Okay. Is to control the neighborhood for increase of home prices. You have more uniformity. Ugh. Johnny, use smaller words, please. Yeah, HOA can kiss my ass. There you go. Just got a call. Rosie, my second truck, air conditioning went out. Driver tried Freon, checked relays. Can't seem to find the problem. It's going into the shop. Prayers and suggestions are appreciated. Condenser on trucks, on most of the newer trucks, condenser, right? If the Freon's full, if the fan's working, it's just, there's only so many parts to an AC system, Shannon, right? It's not like your engine where there's 700 moving parts and components and shit like that. There's only so many pieces to an AC system. Either there's a leak in a line, it's not getting enough pressure, the condenser's gone, or one of the fan is not working. it doesn't take long. Usually any truck I've ever, had a problem with AC, it's gone in the shop before I even make it into the driver's waiting lounge. Somebody's come and gone, okay, here's your problem. And it's going to be $9 million. I just said that to scare you, but it's not going to be $9 million. But good luck. We'll pray for you. We have an HOA where I live in Arizona. They are a nightmare to deal with. Oh, Mark, could you see me dealing with an HOA? I kid you not. There'd be a ticket. There'd be a fucking ticket on my front door every single day. Oh my God. Federal law would help. Layovers per diem. What's the federal law going to do? They're going to mandate that the brokers pay retention time? Not a chance. Because the broker can't go back to the shipper and say, okay, now your load has cost me an additional $1,000 worth of retention time. You need to that load that I just took off you. I need another $1,000 from you. That broker is going to tell you, or that shipper is going to tell you, you can go F yourself, and I just I'll never give you another load. It's the money has to come from somewhere when it comes to driver retention. You have to follow it up the trail, but eventually it stops at the broker. Right? The broker is the end of the line. He's only got so much money in, and he's not going to take a loss. He might do it if you are an outstanding customer. If you are using him and you are moving a lot of freight for him and you are making him a lot of money, you might the first and second time get a little more than you probably should get, or not should get. You should get it all, but you probably more than he would usually pay out. But even these brokers got a line. They're going, okay, we've got this built in. We know we're going to make this much money on the load. We've got this much of it built in in case something goes wrong. We've got some driver retention time built into that. Once you get outside of the regular driver retention line, that you're cutting into their major profit, and they're not going to pay that. I've been driving for 26 years, and I know all truck drivers are not getting the pay they deserve, considering the everyday traffic, long hours, and everything else in between. There should be a better wage. Mark V, I don't disagree with you. Okay, I truly don't disagree with you. And Mark, I'll give you an example. Okay, now this is coming from an owner operator's perspective. Okay, you've got inflation, right? Inflation just keeps going up. The cost of living just keeps going up and going up and going up. And it's not at a slow, steady pace like it was fucking 30 years ago. Inflation is ridiculous. GDP is out of hand, out of control. But inflation is going up. So here's the example I'm going to give you. And I've said this before. A while back, I was going through some boxes and some shit. I was moving some stuff. And I came across a bunch of statements as an owner operator from 2015, and they were literal statements of business and everything like that. And I just out of curiosity, I pulled the top off the box and I started rifling through, and I'm going through, and I was looking at the money that we were making back in 2015 as owner operators. And I was doing the quick, because on mine it's all calculated out for me. So I knew exactly, this is how much money the truck generated. This is how much the salaries were. This is what my cost per operating unit was on each truck. This is blah, 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 blah. So I knew that, we were making what we were making. I knew the dollar figure. And then I was looking at it again in 2024, because this was probably end of last year when I did this. I was looking again in 2024, and I was going, holy shit. I actually said that. Holy shit. I looked at my truck is now generating anywhere from $90,000 to $110,000 a year more. My truck is generating more money than I was in 2015. And it's just one truck. I'm just talking about one truck, not a fleet, not multiple trucks, but one truck. So my truck is generating another $90,000 to $110,000 a year. And then I was looking at all of the sides. I'm going, holy shit, fuel, repairs, cost of this, all the way. The trucks are generating, let's just round it up to 100,000. The trucks are generating $100,000 more a year, but we're actually taking out less. We're making less. Why? Because the cost of living and the cost of doing business has exponentially, you know, has gone up exponentially, like almost tenfold. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's ridiculous. And here's the example I'll give you. Okay, in 2014, Mark, I bought a brand new Volvo, right? VNL 730, heavy spec, 46 rears, 14.6 steers, double framed, fully loaded with every option. Out the door, and I even talked them into installing the headache cabinet, like that nice cabinet and all that shit. I had that 100 out the door with taxes, all the shit. I was $148,000. That was in 2014. We are 11 years later. That truck today, if I went to Volvo and bought, the what is it, the 830? Like it's basically their big boy, but it's the mid roof, right? So if I bought an 830 right now, fully loaded, heavy spec, all of that kind of shit, Mark, I'm probably north of $250,000. So I went from 148,000 to $250,000 in 10 years. The truck is generating more money. Now, the cost to repair that Volvo back then, shop rates at Volvo, Freightliner, and everything like that were averaging anywhere between 65 and 90 bucks an hour, depending on where the shop was or how busy it was. Nowadays, somebody throw up a shop rate. Like I very rarely took my trucks or my trucks into Freightliner or Volvo or wherever I was going. I usually had a mom and pop shop that I was using, that I was reputable and that I'd been using for years and years. So my shop rate, the last time I was took my truck into the shop, which is right here in Strathmore. We got a really, really, really good guy in Strathmore here. His shop rate is 96 bucks an hour if you're a regular customer, or if you're just copping in, you're $110. But a shop rate right now at Freightliner, you're north of $225 an hour. How do you compete with that as an owner operator? So your truck costs you $100,000 more now than it did in 2015. The hourly rates to get your truck fixed have doubled, and now you talk about the price of parts. Okay, a turbo back in 2014 on that Volvo, the turbo on that thing was about $4,300 to $4,500. What's a turbo worth these days? I haven't replaced a new turbo. I've never had to replace a new turbo on one of the new trucks, so I don't know. But if I had to guess, they're probably north of $7,000, 7 or 8. So in terms of reality, that the cost on that is the parts is doubled, and in some cases probably tripled. So the cost of doing business, and then we're not even going to talk about fuel, right? Fuel is out to lunch with the price of fuel. So if you take the fuel, you take the price of your parts, and I don't mean just on major repairs, just regular parts and maintenance. I was watching Jeff Like yesterday, and he made a comment. He was talking about some of this as well. It's like, how much is a fucking oil change right now? Like a PM to go in and get your truck, a full PM done in your truck. The last PM I had done on that Freightliner Cascadia was $712, $720. Sorry, $720 for a full PM. Guys, that's a $350 job, not a $720 job. So now my oil changes have doubled. The price of my parts have doubled or tripled. The cost of buying the equipment is gone up by at least minimum of a third. But have the rates and the money that we're earning and making, have they kept up with? All of those have gone up like this, and we're still going up like this. So this one here, the cost of living and doing business is walking away like this, while this one's going up slowly. You will never be able to, at the rate we're going right now, you'll never be able to compete with that. I worked for a tanker company that paid per mile, then so much for loading and unloading, but they converted it into an hourly rate for the wage slip. That's not a bad deal if you can get it. No religion, no major politics. Yeah, we're going to leave that alone today. I got in enough trouble the other day with that. I'm not saying pay the whole 38 hours, at least split it and pay for half of, so 38 divided by 2 is what? 19? 19. So you want to be paid for 19 hours? I'm telling you right now, Mark, it sounds great. And I'd love to sit here and say, yes, they should do it. And I do. Yes, they should do it, but they are not going to do it. They are not going to do it. They're not in a million years are they ever going to do that. You will never see that happen. What is angry? Stubbing your toe on the leg of your bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. That is angry. You know, rolling off your woman and she looks over at you and goes, "Thanks, that was the best 8 seconds I've had this year." That's angry. Chrissy, good morning. How the hell are you, sweetheart? Good to see you. I know they're making money on that. At the time, I was an owner operator. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. You know, I do love and respect a lot of opinions, but I try the best I can to see my way around it. I try to think at a carrier level or at a broker level or at a even an insurance carrier's level. What are they going to do? Do you think a carrier is going to fucking dip into their profits to pay their driver for hours that, they've been sitting at a dock and knowing that they're never going to recoup that money? It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Occasionally you'll work for a company, and I did when I was with KBD before ETS bought them out. And when the original owners, Pam and Bruce, owned the company, Bruce would go into his own pocket to make sure that his owner operators got paid, but only to a level. If I sat in a dock, for example, for 8 hours, I wouldn't expect Bruce, because I know that he's going to go to the broker and he's going to get something out of it, but he's not going to get 8 hours out of it. But Bruce the broker might pay him 4 and Bruce would pay me 6. I'm good with that. But do you think Schneider, Swift, TransX, Challenger, any of those are going to do that? Not a chance, and not a chance in hell. Shop cost used to be $35 an hour. For now, it's $200 plus an hour. Doug, exactly. My shop is $175 an hour. Now that's your shop, Shannon. You know what? That's great, and that's a really good. Well, that's American. So for me, a Canadian, that's like $260 an hour, right? But that's American. But your shop rate is $175 an hour. Now you are a known entity, Shannon, at that shop. They know who you are. You've got a good track record with them. You pay your bill. You don't ever give them a hassle. There's bullshit like that. You have a really good trust relationship with that shop. If I rolled into that shop, would my shop rate be $175 an hour? I don't know. Beer good, beer bad, as far as I know. $500 with all filter replacement PM. Shannon, that's insane. That's insane. Think about it in this aspect. Now, I don't ever expect you to do it because I never did it myself. But if you did that oil change or did that PM yourself, the cost on the filters, right? So you've probably got what? 2 oil. I don't know what the Cummins has on it, but let's say you've got a couple of couple or one fuel filter. You got a couple or one oil filter. You've got the gaskets. You've got the water separator filter. You've got you're going to get the grease and do the grease on the truck and everything like that. Is that going to cost you $700 or $900? $900 to you, that's $1,200 to me. I will burn my truck down before I will pay $1,200 to have an all filter replaced PM, right? When realistically, you could probably go and get the filters, the oil, and the grease, and do it yourself. Yeah, it's going to take you a couple of hours, right? And you need a location to do it, but it's going to cost you what, maybe $300, $350. I don't know. Somebody do the work on that. We got enough people in here figuring this out. Somebody do the work on that. Very good insight. I totally understand. It was spot on. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Good beer. Do Squires spelled what? Bad Paps Blue Ribbon. I'm guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I stopped drinking over 30 years ago. I can't tell you today what's good beer, bad beer, crap beer, you know. And it's probably just as well that I did quit drinking because, the federal and provincial governments appreciate me not taking up space in any of their cells. So, sorry, 900 includes a DOT too. Okay, so but if you knock the DOT inspection off, what are you looking at? Like trucking, good to see you, Jeff. We're just talking about the costs, just general costs. And you know what? I was watching you yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and we were just you were just talking about general costs of certain things, like the price we're paying for oil changes, the prices we're paying for tires, the prices we're paying. And then I'm just going back. And I'm just going back and I'm giving examples of what I was paying back in 2015. I was an owner operator back in 2015 as well, and I came across a bunch of my statements, a box of my old statements, and I was rifling through and just simply going through. And Jeff, you being a small carrier yourself, you have to know what I'm talking about. You have to know that the cost, what it was costing me when I bought that brand new Volvo in 2014. I rolled it out the door, fully loaded out the door with tax, and a pat on the bum. I rolled it out the door at $148,000 to buy a fully loaded 830 right now, Volvo 830 heavy spec truck. I'm north of $250,000. Now this is Canadian prices, but I'm north of 250, even a little bit more. And this is 10 years, 10 years. So the price of our equipment has gone up by a minimum of a third, The price of our parts has doubled and in some case tripled. Excuse me. The price of our fuel, that's just asinine. So when you add up all of that and then you look at the rates and you look at the way inflation is working, and the example I gave, I don't know if you were here when I gave it, Jeff, that you know inflation's or the cost of living is going up like this, but our wages and our incomes are going up like this. So the inflation is walking away from the cost of doing business, and it's getting to the point where in 2015, after everything was paid, once the lights all the way down to the salaries, everything was paid. The cost was up here, and the cost of me doing business was down here. I had that profit in there. Right. I had a nice little profit in there, and that was a nice little cushion. You could bank more. You were set up a little better because you had more cash and more money on hand because you were able to do business that way. Today, you can't do that. When I retired, dude, it was up here and the cost of business was right here, and my profit was like that. And there's no way, Jeff, that you can sit there and tell me that you guys are making massive money, or the money that you were making back in 2015, if you don't mind me saying, but go back to what you were making per unit at 2015 and compare it to what you're making today. I don't think it's I'm trying to be nice about it, but I just think it's ridiculous. I don't think you were making that money back then, or the same money now as you were making then. I'm generating. My truck is generating more money today, but we're not making as much because of the cost of doing business, the price you're willing to pay to do business. Yeah, like me dealing with the HOA, Stacy won't let me talk to them. We talked, both got kicked out of Costco because of things we had. Well, I wouldn't do well honestly, I really wouldn't do well with an HOA. By the time you pay for cleaning out the air charger plus parts and turbo will cost you $14,000 right now in 2004. I got the entire job for about $4,000. Ghost, thank you. You just prove my point. Now that's 2004, but still, in 2004, how much money were you making, Ghost? You were probably making less per mile or less per hour, but I guarantee you, your take home was probably more. because your cost of doing business was nowhere near as high. I hope my condenser is covered by my factory warranty. It should be. Shannon, it should be. Now, don't spam. No, we're not spamming, guys. No spamming. It should be. Jeff saying it should be for your truck. Shannon, you guys, you and Jeff negotiated a great deal on that truck. Like I remember when you were buying it, you guys were buying it, and you called me and you were telling me that like the war. I won't say what the warranty is, but you told me what it was, and I'd never even heard. I didn't even know International had that warranty. Right? Literally, you pay for light bulbs and tires, right? And the warranty is exceptional on that truck. And I actually looked around up here at International up here, and there was the two dealerships that I'm known at up here. Neither of them had even heard of that. Never heard of that warranty. So how Jeff got that, I don't know. You want to share that, Jeff? Not that I need the warranty on any trucks because I'm not driving a truck. Fraser Valley, good to see you, man. 285 subs. Okay, you were 26 away yesterday, so now you're 20. You're 50. Sorry, not 26. Yeah, was it 26 away? Okay, so now you're 15 away. We need to get Fraser Valley 15 more subs to hit 300. Shannon just did it. There you go. Thank you very much. Motorcycle repair went up. Car repair went up. AG repair went up. Semi repair went up. See a pattern? Oh, brother, I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. It's not necessarily just, the trucking industry, right? It's not. Yes, I understand. The technology that they're putting in the trucks now is more expensive. The testing, the technology that they're implementing, and all the testing that goes in behind it. Yeah, it's not like when you were running a 3406 Cat, where it's basically a block, 6 cylinders, a turbo, and you could pull the thing apart in a truck stop and change out the injectors and be back to work in 4 hours. It's obviously not like that because today's technology is just so advanced. You guys have heard me say the saying 100 times. You spend $250,000 on the computer. They throw the truck in for free. The truck doesn't cost you jack, right? You're paying for the systems and the computers. So, Luke, good to see you. Greetings. It's a tough job indeed. It is. And it's not a job that I really want to do anymore. International gives 2-year full factory warranty on a what? On a what? Back in 2022, parts were in a shortage here in America. I couldn't imagine how some owner operators and lease purchase drivers might have lost money. They couldn't keep it running. Mark, it's funny, and I did a comparison. I actually made a couple of videos about it. Back in 2022, I was driving the Cascadia. It was a 20 Cascadia, and it seemed like, and this was just from my own experience and my own poking around and asking questions. Freightliner and primarily Detroit, because I had a DD15 in my truck, didn't seem to get as hit as hard as Packard did, Volvo did, or International did, or Cummins did. The other ones seem to have more backups, more parts shortages. Now, that's not to say that Detroit didn't, but I don't know what it was. Maybe there was just more parts on hand when it hit and there was more available at the time. But it seems that they didn't take the hit. I don't think once throughout the years of COVID or when that happened that I ever waited for parts. And I had both inlet and outlet knock sensors done. I had, I think, an EGR differential pressure sensor done. And it was usually the sensors and all that shit that was on back order. And I never had a problem with it. Maybe I was just lucky. I don't know. I have old AG equipment because I can wrench on it. Yeah, you know what? That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. With AG equipment. You've heard me and you've heard the arguments 100 times from me, Dog, about the differences between running the older equipment right? Let's go back and run the 60 series Detroits. Let's run the N14 Cummins. Let's go back and run those and put those in the newer trucks and see what we can get out of them. But there are the benefits. What are the pros of that? Well, you've got yourself pretty much a mechanical engine, very little. Yeah, there's an ECM on it, but it's nowhere close to being, say, for a new Volvo. If you line up like a 95 Kenworth W9, right? And then you line up a 2025 or 26 Kenworth W9, right? So in the 95 or 96 W9, let's say you've got an N14 Cummins in that, and then you open up the hood on the 26 Kenworth W9, and you've got a 15-liter or you got an X15 Cummins in that. So you've got the brand new X15, or you've got the N14 Cummins. You open up the hood and you start the nose of that truck, and the new 26, you go back 5 or 6 feet from the nose of that truck. There are more sensors, computer chips, and technology in the first 5 feet of that truck than there is in the entire truck of the 95, right? From nose all the way to the tail, all the way to the back of the truck. There are more sensors and computer and technology in the first 5 feet of that new W9 than there is in the whole truck over there. So is reliability an issue? Yeah, you probably get, there's guys out here. There's probably guys in here right now that are running old 60 series Detroits that got 3 million fucking miles on them, and they're still going strong. Do you think you're ever going to get an X15 up to 3 million miles? Would you ever get an ISX up to 3 million miles? My Detroit, my DD15, when I sold it, it had 700,000 miles on it. Now it was still no problems. It was, I had no issues with it. But you don't hear about it these days with the new trucks and the new technology making it up to 3.5 million miles. And if they are, there's usually a rebuild or a partial rebuild on it, because they're just not made that way. They're not made. They've got a lifespan. This back then they were making trucks. They were making that 12.7 60 series and the 14-liter 60 series, and then the N14 Cummins, and then they had they had the 6NZ, which was a beautiful, but the same block as the 6NZ. They got the 3406 and the 3408s and the Cats and all that. Back then, dude, those were engines, and you could work on them, you could play with them, you could tweak them and do this and that. Today's engines, man, I challenge everybody from guard dog to flatbed. I challenge any of you guys to open your truck right now and go wrench on it. Unless you've got a university degree or you've got professional training, it's just not going to happen. And so the reliability on those engines, when they made that 60 series Detroit back in 1995, they expected that truck to run 1.5 million miles before you needed to do anything to it. 1.5 million miles is what they expected. Do you honestly think if you bought a brand new 26 Kenworth W9 right now with that X15, you're going to run that truck for 1.5 million miles before you have a problem with it? You know what? One in 500,000 trucks might make it. I don't think you will. I don't think you will. And the cost to repair it, I can still do a complete in-frame on a 60 series Detroit today, right? Even at today's prices, for about $21,000. Do an in-frame on an X15 if it's out of warranty, right? So let's say you've got a 19 or a 20 or a 21 and you're out of warranty, and you pop it, you grenade that motor. What are you doing? You're going to do an in-frame on that. What are you looking at for that? I know on a 2014 Volvo, I had a D13 in that. And in 2017, I grenaded that engine. That was a $42,000 replacement, right? In-frame was an in-frame. I didn't replace the engine, but that was a $42,000 bill. I don't know what's an X15 worth today or a D13 today. You grenade a 2021 or a 22, a Volvo D13. What are you looking at for a bill? But I can take an N14 Cummins, or I can take a 60 series 12.7 or a 14-liter Detroit, and I can rebuild either of those for under $25,000. Cats are a little more expensive, at least in Canada they are. if you're rebuilding a C15 or you're rebuilding a C13, the 13 liter, or if you're rebuilding a 6NZ or 3406, you're going to pay more. Cat, because you're usually taking it to Cat to get them to do it, and blah 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 blah, and they're just a ripoff. But they're great engines, but you pay more. You're going to be over 25,000 bucks. But the 60 series and the N14s, that's why guys kept them. Right? They'd run the thing to 1.5 million miles, start having problems with it, or the motor would let go. And what do? Rebuild it and get another 1.5 million out of it. That's why you see like trucks from 1990 or even 80, let's go 85, all the way to current day that are still on the road. The odometer might have 4.5 million miles, but he's rebuilt that engine twice and still come out at a lesser cost than building an X50, rebuilding an X15 once. Have a great day, Mark. Yeah, I'm behind the comments. Sorry, guys. I have a trucker friend that calls me because I can hook up a laptop to their truck and see the same things in a shop can see. Well, that's a nice thing to have. That's a nice option to have. A lot of guys these days, like if I have a Detroit, say I've got the DD15, if I want the program for that, you got to pay for that, right? I gotta pay for that. That's a cost that I have to pay for. I have to go to Detroit, purchase the thing. And from what I understand, just for that program, and it just comes on a CD or they email it to you or whatever they do it these days. You're north of about 10,000 bucks for that. I don't know if I want to do that. So Johnny, you might have a bootleg copy, or you might have an in from somebody else. But or you might just have a generic code reader. Hey, I had an International with ISX 15 Cummins, had bad sensors. I was in the shop for 2 weeks. I had Mark. I had a 2012. No, it wasn't my truck, but it was another truck I owned. I had a driver in. I had a 2012 Cascadia with an ISX 15. And dude, let me tell you, it was nothing but problematic with sensors. Nothing but problematic. And it dropped sleeves. It dropped sleeves. It just pissed me off all to hell. It dropped sleeves. Yeah. The ISX platform was not good. When that engine worked, it was a monster. It was an absolute monster when it worked. But getting that thing to work properly, absolutely not. Be right back. Need ice in this drink. Get me a drink, would you? I brought these orange Cokes up here and they're absolutely horrible. I have a D343 on a generator. Fraser Valley, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what that is. Don't have a clue what that is. Only problem with the older motor, a lot of the new mechanics don't know how to work on them. That's a good point as well. And if you look around, Crag Rat, at least in Canada, and I would say for a good portion in the US, most of the shops they're now called techs, right? We're going to get our best tech on that job. We're going to get this. But most of the shops usually got one or maybe two, depending on the size of the shop. They got one or two old boys sitting in the back corner, working in the back corner, and that they keep them here and they keep them relevant just for that. Right? Just for that. So when the older engines come through, like here, for example, when I had that 96 W9 with the 60 series, there was a guy in our shop, even though, today's technology and all the other techs were, college kids, university kids, and they were all computer wizards, and, they were geniuses. There was Bobby in the back there that still you could blindfold him and just hand him his tool bench, and he could take that engine apart and put it back together. So a lot of cases here, there's still one or two old boys still floating around in the shops, and they keep them like that. But those guys are eventually going to die off. I think it would be worth worthwhile for every shop to take at least a couple of their techs and get them wrenching on some old equipment. Really, just get them wrenching on some old equipment. Okay, so you've got this job, this job, this job, and you're going to do a top set on that N14 over there today. Oh, you don't know how to do it? Here's how you do it. We'll walk you through it, and just at least get the generals on it, so you can be doing top sets, bearing rolls, injectors, shit like that. I have a truck. Mods shouldn't be talking this much. Rodeo, how much do you want the mods to talk? You're welcome to talk. Anybody else can talk. Caterpillar, in my opinion, is a well-built motor, and they primarily are. But remember, cats were originally built and designed for construction and heavy application, and then they came into the Class 8 market, and then they went into trucks. I don't know of any of the cat series, whether it goes all the way from like when they had the 6NZs, the 3406, 3408s, the C13s, the 3. I don't know of any of them that were ever really that great for fuel mileage. I've owned one cat. I know my buddy Jeremy, he ran a C13 in his binder for years. And they're torquey, they're powerful, they're good engines. They're reliable for the most part. But in today's day and age, do I stop? Give it a rest. You'd think somebody was ripping her ears off. But in today's day and age, fuel mileage wins the race. It's not the first one to the top of the hill that wins the race. It's the guy that gets to the top of the hill with the most fuel left in his tanks. And when you add up that fuel over the span of days, weeks, months, years, that's where your money is. It's your fuel savings. You make a lot of money on your fuel savings. And today it doesn't make sense to run any of those cat engines in the trucks unless you're doing AG, or you're doing gravel haul, like heavy gravel haul, or you're in a super heavy application. You're doing super heavy and wide loads and shit like that. Then yeah, okay. But just in general, on the open market, spot market, I wouldn't want to run a C15 today. Because you go, oh wow, I'm getting in my C15 running general freight, I'm getting 6.5 miles per gallon. Well, you know what? My DD15 is getting me 9 miles per gallon. That means I'm putting about $70,000 a year more in my pocket just in fuel savings. You want to stroke me a check every year for 70 grand? I'll be happy to take it. Let's just say I have original software from different major companies still working on John Deere. The old 440 Cummins flatbed, you got one? You could probably sell it for Cat D343 out of a D8 dozer. Well, dude, my dozer experience is limited. I've moved a million of them. I've had hundreds of them on my trailer, but I've never really concerned myself with what was in it. I was more worried about getting it on the trailer and getting it on straight, and not letting it fall off. The X15 Cummins auto regen at highway speed was all right, but I won't bore you with the Max Force motor. I'm sure the Max Force is Mark V. The Max Force motor or engine is nothing but a boat anchor. It's good for nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm going to clip that with you with the cat comes in. You do that. I'm waiting for somebody. I'm surprised somebody didn't do it the other day. Talking about Caterpillar Motors, your cat thinks they're talking about the cat. You know what? May well be, but that's a almost a 21-year-old cat. So I don't think there's a whole lot of horsepower left in her. What's popping, Jay? Well, not a whole lot's popping. Moving on from trucks and truck talk. What do you want to talk about, dude? I like talking about trucks. I love talking about trucking. I love talking about anything to do with the trucking business, trucking industry. If you've got some interesting input about the business or the or about the industry, hey man, get your 2 cents in there, Jay. Guard dog already deleted it. It doesn't come up on my screen. I have to look down at the phone to see. Dog, if he comes back in, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Not going to play with him. I get it. I'm not going to play with him either. But if he comes in, like he came in the other day and he behaved himself. If he comes in and he wants to behave himself, dog, I got no problem. Anybody's welcome to be in here. I don't have anybody blocked. I don't have anybody. This channel's wide open. So if he wants to come in and he wants to behave himself, I got no problem. Let him be. And Crag Rat, same thing. If he gets out of hand or he starts popping off, then fine, get rid of him or time him out. But leave him alone. Let him be here. If he wants to talk trucking, let him talk trucking. If he wants to talk world event news, let him talk world event news. As soon as he steps off, as soon as he goes off the rails or he steps out of line, then fine, you can pop him. Easy there, Jason. You must have heard what I just said. They're going to leave you alone. Well, just, you know what? Dog, leave him alone. Like I said, if he wants to talk truck and he wants to talk relevant current information, that's fine. If he gets out of hand and goes off the rails on what? What? As soon as I look at her and say what, she starts, see? There you go. There you go. I will pay somebody $25 an hour to come over right now and take my dog for a walk. Or take my cat for a walk. Somebody want to go take this cat for a walk, take her out? 3 strikes and out. Well, no, you know what, guys? Let it be. Let it be. Let him be. Jason or Sean fan, whatever you want to call yourself, be here. That's fine. Don't challenge the mods. You leave the mods alone. No, they've been asked now by me to leave you alone. Don't challenge the mods. Don't go at the mods. Leave them alone. They'll leave you alone. Again, you want to talk trucks? Start talking. You want to talk trucking? Start talking. You want to talk about the industry? Start talking. Other than that, stop complaining they banned you or they kicked you out. They did. Johnny kicked you out. It won't happen again. Drones are awesome. I have 4. I had one. I had a really, really nice one. And unfortunately, I got a little carried away with it. And, and I put it into a tree. And I don't mean like I put it into the tree and it hit the branches and it kind of just hung up and it hit the tree trunk. And you have never seen a drone just go boom. And if there was like an example of anything, it would be like when something you throw a bag of like baby powder, take a baby powder, put it in a bag, and throw it at a hard object, and watch that bag just go poof and powder. I hit that damn trees that fast and that hard that I swear to God the bark came off the tree. It was bad. The drone was destroyed. Unfortunately, it was destroyed. Yeah, it was a DJI. It was an older model. It was an older one that I'd bought off of the hell was that guy's name? The hell was that guy's name? Anyway, Will. I bought it off Will. He was on the channel for a while, and him and I used to. He was running in my truck a couple of years ago, and this and that. But anyway, I bought it off of him, and it was a really good. And at that time, it was a newer one, but I had it for a few years. But yeah, I got a little crazy thinking I was a better pilot than I actually was. And I was doing some shit in my backyard, and we lived out in the country, and the whole back end of my property was these great big trees. It was tree lined and fenced and all that shit. And I was trying to do like in between the cones when you see the cars and they're weaving from side to side. I was trying to do that with my drone through the trees, and I got to tell you, I was nowhere near as good a pilot as I thought I was. Because that drone hit the tree, and when I was picking up the parts at the bottom of that tree, and that's the other thing, it was probably like, I don't know, like a quarter of a mile away. So I had to walk over. Thank God you know what tree you hit, right? But I had to walk over, and the parts, it looked like an airline crash. The parts were scattered everywhere, all over the place. I didn't even bother picking half the shit up. I just picked up the main body and walked away with it. Batshit crazy. Scania in North America. Do we have them? You will see the odd ones running around North America, US and Canada. I know that Scania had, excuse me, I know that Scania had a few years ago. They actually had a dealership for parts and service in Canada. I think it was in Ontario, but I'm not 100% sure if they've still got it. I don't think we have a dealership here that will sell you a Scania. I think you have to buy it overseas and import it. Um, but I think there might be ways. If I remember, there was a whole bunch of shit I read about it, but it's been a while. I haven't given a lot of thought. I think Volvo. I think it was Volvo, or it might have been Detroit. But one of them had service techs that would work on Scanias. Now, again, I'm not 100% sure on that. You'd have to double check that. But I do know that Scania had an outlet here in Canada, in Ontario. I can't say whether they're still working or not, or whether they're open or not. I'd love to see Scanias. I guarantee you, if they had Scanias, if somebody over here, if they started importing Scanias and Scanias were the shit over here, Tyke Truck and be over here in a minute. Cragrat would be over here in a minute. All you guys would be over. All you European guys would be over here in under 10 seconds. Just to just so you can drive the Scanias, get the truck you want, the comfort you want, and be able to drive the long distances on the highways. Because I don't know many truck drivers in Europe that are they're turning 600 miles a day, maybe 600 kilometers, but they're not turning 600 miles in a day, only because you don't have the vast open space to do it. You can in Canada, you can get on the highway here, and you can easily do 600, 650. And if you're running Canadian logbook rules, it's not uncommon to turn, if you really keep your foot into it, and you're not stopping every 9 minutes for a piss. If you put your 700 miles in a day on a Canadian logbook rule is attainable. You can do it. In the US, you can still easily turn 600 miles even on their logbook rules. Why? Because most of the time, once you get out of a major city core, you've got vast open highways and you've got the ability to do it. There's nothing stopping you, unless there's road construction or an accident or something like that. But it's just one of those things, right? Nice flying soldier. They're putting the Scania Inline 6 into internationals now. Over here, Robert? Is that over here in North America? They're putting the Scania Inline 6 into the internationals now. I know that international in Canada, I think in North America Wild, international was bought by Volkswagen. So whatever the group is that owns Volkswagen probably owns Scania, and that's why they're able to do something like that. But still, I didn't know they were doing that. They're putting it into. I didn't realize that they were doing that. That's why there's too many East Indians down here. Like 90% is Indians. I don't know what you're talking about. I must have missed a comment. Sorry. I wouldn't, Brian. I preferred the British trucks. Eh, I've never, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I have nothing to compare on. I've driven Cats, Detroits, Cummins, Volvos. Uh, you know, I've driven those. I've never driven any of the DAF. I've driven PACCAR. Well, I guess PACCAR is made by DAF, right, over in Europe. But I've never driven a Scania. I've never driven or the Mercedes that you guys got over there. I've never driven one of those, so I have not. I can't give you a comparison on it, on whether they're better, more comfortable. I know that they're comfortable, and I know that they would be fun to drive. Don't get me wrong. If and when eventually I do it, I'm gonna be in England, or I'm gonna be in Europe, and there's gonna be a time and place where somehow or another, even if I have to make the time and break away, I will be hooking up with Tyke. And the first thing I'm gonna do after I give him a big hug and a kiss is kick him out of his fucking truck and try to drive it. Right. So I'm gonna do that. Oh, I really do want to drive one. It is the 70 and 80s logbook rule in Canada. Boop, 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 boop. Would you care if I went live because your numbers might drop and I don't like stealing other people's views? Fraser Valley, knock yourself out, man. Knock yourself out. You want to go live? Go get it, man. It's your prerogative. You're not going to hurt my feelings, not one bit. Please knock yourself out. You know, my channel took a strike the other day. So my algorithm is been stunted until my prison sentence has been as finishes. You know, I took a pretty hard strike. Channel took a strike. So you know, I think the most I saw in here today was 28, 27 or 28. Usually we're north of 45 to 50. So when the strike and my channel loses the strike, then you know what, we'll get back to some better numbers. So I'm not counting on anybody hanging out here. There's 16 of you here. Hey, knock yourselves out. Tykes Renault is basically a Volvo. See, I don't know. Over in Europe, you see, there's probably only two or three, maybe four manufacturers or companies, but they own, like, so this company over here owns Volvo, Mack, Scania, blah, 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 all the way down the line. And then this company here will own International, PACCAR, blah, blah. I'm just making this up, right? But so, you know, I don't know enough about it. I really don't. The Scania Inline's counterweighted crankshaft harmonics are so precisely tuned that it's firing order subtly, minimizes transition. Sorry, this Jay, the fucking chat jumped. Believe it or not, I can read. It's firing or subtly. Minimizes torsional oscillation at mid-load cruising torque. I got to actually sit and process that to see if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Again, I don't know fuck all about the Scanias except that they look good. That's your 2 cents? Hey. Why did you get a strike? He kept banning me, so he got a strike. No, it had nothing to do with you. I took a strike the other day. I was in the middle of a live, Shannon, and we were talking about religion, and I got let's just say, Shannon, I worked myself. It was nobody triggered me or anything, but I worked myself up into a pretty good Brian rant. And I was talking about religion and different types of religions, and I was using some rather colorful language, and YouTube shut the stream off in mid-stream. They just shut it down. I took a strike. There might have been somebody in the chat that complained about it, but I don't think that would have been enough. And then I got a notice saying that I was violating YouTube's code of fucking whatever it is. Either way, and then my channel took a strike. So I'm not in YouTube jail per se. I can still go live. But what they've done is for the next 10 days, they've stunted my algorithm, meaning that I'm not going to get out as far as I am. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to go live, but that's how I took a strike. They shut the live down in midstream, sent me a notification. I was able to start another stream back up, but by then it was too long. It was too late. So that's why you'll notice the last couple of days there's been no religion, and I don't even think I'm going to pick on the politicians for a little while. I'm going to give those fuckers a break as well. And basically what they were saying is that my language or use thereof language was a little too colorful for what their platform wants to see. Meanwhile, you can go watch guys on here and every second word out of their mouth is F this, cunt that, this and that. And it's like, really? I think it was a combination that I was tearing into religion and a little bit of politics. I was tearing into that, and it was the use of colorful language. So either way, the British trucks had Cummins and Caterpillars in them, and the Lelands had their own engines. They had Eaton Fuller Road Ranger gearboxes and the Eaton Twin Splitter. Those were what, the 5 and 4s, Tyke? The Twin Splitters? They don't build British trucks anymore. Well, realistically, I don't think they build a lot of English cars either. Isn't everything in England? I don't even think I don't think Range Rovers are even made in England anymore. Jaguar is not made in England. Well, maybe it's made, but it's not owned and operated by the English. Range Rover, all of them. What? Again, I'm not there, so I don't know what you guys have and what you don't have. What you guys got car manufacturers over there and names of cars that I've never heard of, right? So you could sit there and go, yeah, but the Express Willie is still made in England. I'm like, well, what the hell is an Express Willie? I've never heard of that. I don't know what it is. Rolls-Royce made a good truck engine. I never, you know what? Never drove one. Canadian drivers are on 80-hour rule. Just checked it out. Mark, I'm not sure about that. I think if you're running the 70 and 7, you're a 70-hour work week. If you run the 120 and you can't switch from one to the other in midstream, you have to finish your 70, take your 36. I think it's actually 72, and then you can go on the 120 cycle, which will allow you to run for 120. It doesn't allow you to run for 120 hours, but there's a whole. I didn't run it a lot. I never really needed to, and I don't run. I never ever ran a lot of recaps, but I don't think it's 80 hour. I don't think it's an 80-hour rule, dude. I've only been retired from trucking for 5 or 6 months here. I don't think they've changed it that much. Rolls-Royce made good engine. Again, never ran one, never drove one, was never in one. So, Mark V, I just support half here. Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to do it all again tomorrow. See what's going on. We'll talk about trucks, engines. And just because we've done a whole thing today talking trucking, that's all good, and I really like it and I appreciate it. But we're kind of weaving off here, and we're talking about cars. We can talk about motorcycles. We can talk about just about anything you want, but we are going to leave religion and politics alone for a while. And I think we're safer with cocaine and hookers, to be honest with you. The Rolls-Royce engines were a little bit thirsty. Well, that would probably fall in the same category as like the cats, right? You get a 3406 cat, man. That thing, you can throw a chain around this house right now and rip it off its foundation, but it's gonna drink, 100 gallons of fuel doing it. The cats were thirsty. The Cummins got much better. The N14 Cummins, they got much better fuel mileage, but they were absolutely prone to injector failure. The good thing about those N14s is you could literally roll into the truck stop, and if you kept extras, and a lot of guys did, if they kept extras, you could roll into the truck stop in under 2 hours. You could do a 6-pack of injectors on an N14 Cummins, because they didn't have to be coated. They didn't have to be done. You just take them out, put the new ones in, make sure they're aligned, pop your covers back on, and go. That was the great thing about them. Try doing that today. Good luck with that. Sorry. English car companies, either Indian or Chinese owned. Yeah, no, that's what I was talking about. Probably the trucks over there as well. Cragrat, if you think about it, right? The trucks are probably the same over there. I currently drive a 2024 T680 Kenworth with an ISX Cummins. It's a company truck. If it's a 2024, Mark, you're driving an X15 Cummins. The ISX platform stopped, I think, in 2017 or 2018. right? The X15 platform came out in 2018 or 2017, something like that. So you're driving an X15, which is a really good engine. It's a really good engine. Shannon Thomas runs one in her binder. I know that a bunch of the guys at the last place I was working at, they're all running them in their Pete's, the X15s. I've never owned one, but I've driven them. They're torquey. They're very responsive, and they do get decent fuel mileage. They do. I know Chicken Hawk runs, 8.5 to 9 miles per gallon, and he runs heavy, right? He's maxing out his truck at 80,000 pounds. He's running heavy, and he's still pulling 8.5 to 9 miles per gallon out of But he's got a performance series. You can get the economy series or whatever you want to call it. It's the one that it's tuned down. It's not built for heavy haul application. It's more for the performance of fuel mileage. But if you've got the new X15, they're great engines. They really are. I'll be honest with you. You'd have to ask Shannon if there's been any major problems. I know there's been a couple of little hiccups, but you get that with any, because she bought her truck brand new. So there's always a couple of little hiccups when you get it out the gate until the truck breaks in and this and that. But I don't think she's had any issues. I know that Chicken Hawk had almost no issues. He had a 21 T680 with the Cummins in it, and then he had a 23 because he turns them over every couple of years. He had a brand new 23 T680 with the Cummins in it, and he just took delivery of a W990 with the Cummins in it. So I'd be curious. I'd be curious to know what that Cummins is getting. Look at that. His ears were burning. His ears were burning. There's Chicken Hawk there. Truck's either American or Swedish owned or German. Yeah, your X15 is beastie. It's a beastie. There you go. There you go. Yep, 8.3 miles per gallon, 80,000 pounds at 72 miles an hour, X15 efficiency series with a 12 speed and a 308 rears. That is a beautiful setup. That is a beautiful setup. You can still keep that thing at over 8 miles per gallon and run 75 miles an hour. Right? Mike Freightliner was I had the exact same thing. I had the Detroit. I didn't have the X15, but I had the 12-speed automated. I had the 308 rear ends. And my horsepower, I adjusted. When I got the truck, it was set at 505 horse. The Detroit was. I took it down to 475. Took the torque down from 1780 down to 18 or 1720. And I ran that truck very comfortably, well, almost into the nines at all times. With that exact setup, I had the 12-speed automated, had the Detroit, had the 308 diffs, had 308 rear ends. It's a really, really good setup. I think Freightliner was the first one to come out with it, or not to come. They didn't invent it. No, that's not what I'm saying. But they were the first one to put that combination of gearing, engine, and transmission together. And they were the first one to hit those numbers. And I think right now they're probably doing the best. I know that Volvo right now, I think Volvo is running their D13 at 505. They got the 12-speed automated iShift, which in my opinion is the best automated transmission in the world. It's second to none. But you've got the D13 at 505 horse. You've got the 12-speed automated with overdrive, and then they go down to the 264 differentials, the rear ends, and those things are absolute beasts as well for fuel mileage. They're really, really good. Now as well. I haven't checked out the 25s and the 26 Volvos, but now they're back to using a compound turbo. So I'm going to actually check that out and see how that cost wise, efficiency wise, and see what the benefit of that is. Now I got a W990 565 Performance Series X15 325 rear 6.95 miles per gallon and 72 miles an hour. You might want to change some shit up there, Chicken Hawk. Right? Or because at 72 miles an hour with 325 rear ends, where are your Where are your RPMs at that? With a 325 rear end at 72 miles an hour, what, about 1200 RPM? 1225, somewhere around there with the 325. No, you're actually going to be higher than that. You're going to be probably closer to about 1300 RPM at 13 and a bit at 72 miles an hour. Now, if you took, and I know you're not going to listen to me, but if you took it down to 65 miles an hour, lose the 7 mile an hour from 72, take it down to 65, get your RPMs down, let the automated transmission in the computer do its job. You can bump that from 6.95 miles per gallon. You can easily get that into the fucking 8s. Easily. I thought, for Shannon, just for a second there, I thought you said big sacks. I was going, oh my God, Shannon, what happened? Chicken Hawk shows up and your mind fell off the rails. Good thing I saw that Y on the end of that. It is a best practice for long haul drivers to pack heat for protection. Depends on where you are, where you're running, what state you're in. In Canada, we're not allowed. We're not allowed to run. We're not allowed to have weapons or firearms of any sort in our trucks, right? So it's unfortunate. I think in the U.S., I think if you're permitted for certain areas, you can go from state to state. I'm not 100% sure, but I know if you're just running one state only, say you stay within your own state and you've got to carry an open carry, and you can have a gun in your truck or a weapon in your truck. I love it. It is super badass. Yeah, well, we're going to see how badass that truck is after I come down and mount a camera on the dash and take it for a spin. I got a freight, Jared. I love this. I got a Freightliner with a 60 series. It's not much, but it pays the bills. Well, the good thing is if the engine ever blows up, you're only 20 grand into it for a new engine. Try doing that with Chicken Hawk's Performance Series X15. Good luck with that. That's got to be at least a $60,000 rebuild on that. Mind you, he's got warranty, but 1400 RPM at 72 miles an hour. That's too high there. Chicken Hawk, that's too high. There you go. That's too high. Now, Chicken Hawk, you know how to do the math, so I'm not going to walk you through this, but take the average trip of where you go out and back, the rounder, right? Do the mileage on the rounder. Do what it costs you. Figure the cost at what did you say? 6 point something, sorry, I want to be correct on this. God forbid somebody puts out a short and shows me fucking being wrong. Okay. So do the difference, the cost difference, the dollar difference between 6.95 miles per gallon and what the savings would be, or what you would get at 1400 RPM. Yeah. At 8.2. The dollar value it's $130 more per round trip. Okay. And you and Special K, I'm assuming Special K is still running with you. You guys are doing those in a rather bit of a hurry. So add that up over the weeks, over the year, over the months, and over the years. And then if you're satisfied with that, send me the check for whatever the difference is. If you're not satisfied with it, then either adjust your rear ends. You can take those in, and you can. Being sexy costs money, Brian. You can't put a price on sexy. I don't know. Look at this, baby. Look at this, all wrapped up into a bundle. Look at this. Like Chicken Hawk, you can't compete with this. I don't care W990 or not. I don't even own a truck that I drive. I'm still out here killing it, dude. Doesn't get any better than this. But anyway, if you're content with that, dude, being ugly also costs money. Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's like though. You want to tell us all about that, Putty Cat? Stephanie, funny, Chicken Hawk walks in the door and so does Stephanie. Where the hell you two been? I want to, you two obviously were out hanging out together. Where you been? Explain yourselves. I want to know what you guys have been doing. And Chicken Hawk, why do you smell funny? And Stephanie, why are you out of breath? Anyway, yeah, it's a monstrous difference when you look at when guys go, oh well, I'm still getting 7 miles per gallon. You know, I'm driving my 2016 and I'm still getting 7 miles per gallon. Yeah, well, my 2020 is getting 9 miles per gallon. At the end of the year, the savings and fuel differences is ridiculous. You're leaving money out on the table. And you know what? If you leave it out there, I'm going to take it. Chicken Hawk is going to take it. You know, any other owner operator, if you're doing business against me and you're leaving money out on the table, that's on you. I'm coming to get it. And you're going to have to fight me for it. And you're not going to fight me in a fair fight with a 7 mile per gallon truck while mine's getting 9. That's not a fair fight. I'm going to wipe the floor with you. Going to throw some pork butt on the smoker soon. Why is it every time, Stephanie, that you come in here, you're about to cook something absolutely spectacular? What is it about that? Like, Jesus Christ. I'm going to have to go out and buy a flat top. I'm going to have to go buy a smoker just to keep up with you people. Like, I can't compete with that. How do drivers stay fit, but yet others are so fat? Part of it, some of it might be genetics. Some of it is just diet. You know, for the last, I would say probably for the last almost 10 years of my trucking career, I very rarely ate out. When I very rarely ate out of the truck. I always ate in the truck. I would do my own grocery shopping. I would pull the truck into Walmart or grocery stores. I would do everything that I do, meal preparation, eat everything in the truck. That way I knew what was going into my body. I knew what I was eating. You know, I wasn't, fast fooding it or anything like that, where you're eating a shit ton of preservatives. You're ingesting probably a rock mountain of salt. I had a better control over that, which in turn, I was able to control my weight a lot better. When I was out on the road and I was eating in the truck stop every night and stopping for lunch and everything like that, dude, I was 265 pounds. 265 pounds. I got the stretch marks to prove it, man. I blew up as big as a fucking house in under 3 years. I went from like 210 pounds to 265 pounds. I got big. And it wasn't healthy. You can't attain and maintain the trucking lifestyle as a big, 300-pound guy. Your heart won't take it. Eventually, your heart's going to give out. Your lungs will give out. You'll have blood clots. You'll have problems, and some of that I did have. I had to basically change my lifestyle within the truck. I couldn't change the trucking lifestyle. I had to change my lifestyle within the truck, and that's what I did. And I was able to get my weight back down to a more manageable level. Right now, I bounce back and forth anywhere between 215 and 220. Right, and for me, as a 55-year-old guy, at 6 foot, I'm 6'2", at 55 years old. For me to be 215 pounds, 220 pounds is fine. Ideally, like doctors, and if you do the medical chart and all this shit, I'm supposed to be between 200 and 205 pounds. So if I'm 215 pounds, if I'm carrying around 10 pounds, 10 pounds or 10 or 15 extra pounds, it's not a big deal. But what I did enjoy is when you go from 265 down to, say, then you get down into the 250 marks, then you get down into the 240 marks. You notice that all the definition that you used to have when you used to work out at the gym, a lot of that definition starts coming back. So it was like, wow, I got down to like 230. I was like, holy shit, the arms are still there. The shoulders, the neck, wait a minute, it's still there. And then as I started to lose a little more, and then I didn't have to hammer into the gym to get back into shape. A lot of it was still there. It was just covered in fat. Once you removed all the fat off it was like, that ain't bad. Ain't bad. Like, I'm not hard to look at naked. I got to tell you honestly. Like, you guys really want to fucking know that. Uh, choosing to eat while sitting doing nothing all day. Well, that's my biggest problem as well with trucking was you do a lot of snacking, right? So then I had to adjust what was I snacking on, right? Instead of eating chocolate bars, potato chips, mountains of granola bars and shit like that, I had to start making healthier choices of what I was reaching for. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not to say that I didn't have the occasional chocolate bar. Yeah, I kept a great big Toblerone or a great big Dairy Milk in my truck freezer at all times, but I wasn't eating 3 or 4 of them a day. You know, an average being on average being a flatbed driver with an average 46,000 pounds, I average around 6.8 miles per gallon. That's not bad. There's two things going in your favor. One, you're driving an older, I think it was you that were saying you're driving the 60 series. You're driving an older truck or an older, so you got reliability. You're not going to blow that engine up anytime soon. You're not eating the cost of sensors and emissions and all that kind of shit. And 46,000 pounds on those old 60 series and those old N14s. The harder you make those things work, the happier they are. 6.8 miles per gallon. Well, that's not great. That's not great. Unfortunately, if you take 6.8 miles per gallon and you compare that to say 9 mile per gallon truck, you're leaving a lot of money out there. Maybe one of the advantages that you have is that you're doing flatbed, so you're paid a little more. But the extra money that you're being paid as a flatbed driver, as compared to what somebody would make as a van driver, so that increased difference, you lose 10 times that in your fuel mileage alone, just alone 6.8 down day. You got to remember that the average new truck, like Volvo is advertising right now, that you are going to get 9.5 miles per gallon with that truck right off the showroom floor. There's no break-in period anymore. Like when we used to buy the old trucks, you get an old 60 series, you had to drive it for 45, 50,000 miles for the engine to break in, and you'd get 5 miles per gallon for 50,000 miles. And then you'd wake up one day and all of a sudden you were getting 6.5, or you were getting 7. Nowadays, there's no break-in period. You got an X15 Cummins, it's getting 9 miles per gallon right off the showroom floor. You can't compete with that. But there are a lot of big factors. Are you making a truck payment? No. Are you making? I don't know. I'm just saying yes or no. Are you making a truck payment on the older truck? Do you still have a payment on it? Yes or no. You're going to get shitty fuel mileage, but it's going to be cheaper to fix and maintain, and your maintenance fees or your maintenance costs throughout the year are going to be substantially less. On an average year with a new truck, with my trucks, let's just go with the Freightliner with the 2020. On an average year, I was anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 in maintenance, and I'm not talking about any kind of repairs. I'm just talking about oil changes, PMs, tires, light bulbs, just typical shit like that. You're anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000, and we budget for that, right? You are going to be probably less than that. Most drivers are fat because they eat all. Well, yeah, 46,000 pounds. That's like empty up here. Depends on what you're pulling. Hey, are you that guy that smokes outside? Well, yeah, most of the time, but now it's getting too cold outside to smoke, or it's getting too cold outside to sit. So I just sit here for a couple of hours in here and do it in here. And unfortunately, I don't smoke inside the house. So you guys will know when I'm getting ready to end the live, because I'm starting to get cranky because I haven't had a cigarette in about, what are we at here? 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I'm sure it is. We are lightweights down here. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say you're lightweights. You're not lightweights. I've seen, I watch, TMC does some heavy work. Maverick does some heavy haul work. There's a lot of companies down in the US do heavy haul and wide loads and shit like that. You guys do some shit down there. But you're still not as good as the Canadians. There's my shot. There's my shot. When I started trucking, I was 285. Now I'm at 180, and I've been driving for 11 years. And that, I guarantee you, flatbed, that's been because of discipline. And then that's the other thing. A lot of truck drivers, and myself included, in that for a time period, it was just and there was no self-control and no self-discipline. Why? Because boredom, right? Because when you're going to run 600 miles, you're going to run all the way across the 80, right? You can run 600 miles across the 80 and not have to stop that truck once. Um, but you're going to eat everything you can get your goddamn hands on, right? And that's discipline. I didn't have a lot of discipline at times, and my weight and my health paid for it. And it wasn't until I got, like I said, about 10 years ago, it was like, wait the fuck a minute here. Like, I'm a beast, right? I'm a beast. This is ridiculous. And something had to be done about it. My truck almost grosses that almost that at empty. What the hell are you pulling? What the hell are you pulling? I hit 489 pounds and then started doing DDP's yoga program, adapted for the truck, and dropped to 243 because of the workout and moderation of food intake. And that's been my biggest thing has been the moderation of food intake. Now, that's not to say that, every once in a while, do I fall off the rails? Hell yeah. Do I fall off the rails and grab crap and eat it? Yeah, I do. But for the most part, last night for dinner, what did I make for dinner last night? Actually, last night for dinner, I only had to feed myself last night, so I broke down and made grilled cheese sandwiches, right? But the dinner night before that, I did salmon and a rice pilaf, and I did it. I did healthy. So do I fall off the rails? Yeah, if I could have made something healthier last night, but no, I opted for the fast, easy, grill a couple of grilled cheese sandwiches because I was only feeding myself. Tri-drive log truck with a winch. Well, you didn't explain that. I'm sitting here thinking, what the fuck are you like? What are you doing there? Tri-drive log truck with a winch. Nice. You want to know something? Mile, in all of the work that I've done, all of the trucks that I've worked for a company or been leased onto a company that owned them. I've never driven one. I've never driven a tri-drive truck with all axles on the ground. I would love to. Excuse me. You hand me the keys to one, I'm definitely going to get in it and try it out. But uh, I've never driven one. I would really like to. Coffee. Stephanie's got coffee. If y'all truckers worried about fuel, you need better stuff to haul. Well, in your application, fuel mileage doesn't count. Okay, it doesn't count. Then you're looking for raw torque. In order to get raw torque, maximum torque, and horsepower, it costs fuel. But if you're doing something like a heavy application like you're doing, or if you're pulling like the massive 350 340 or 350 360,000 pound transformers, fuel mileage goes out the window. That's not even worked into the equation. If that truck gets 5 miles to the gallon, nobody gives a shit, right? Why? Because the rate is so astronomically high that the fuel you're going to burn is not even calculated into it. They don't care. You're making more money than you really give a shit about your fuel. You're more concerned about safety and your equipment at that point, right? I guarantee you, Mile, the truck you're driving, I don't know if you own it or not, but if you're driving a tri-drive log truck, the company you're working for, they're not even looking at your fuel bills. They're more concerned with you smashing up their equipment and their logs and your safety record is what they're more concerned with. They don't give a fuck. The fuel bill for that thing comes in every month or every week or however you get, however they get it, or however you get it, and they're just going, yeah, okay, pay that. They don't even look at it. I like that hat on you. Well, thank you. I just got this hat. Actually, this one's brand spanking new. And there's not a mark on it, and I'm gonna try to keep it that way. Where did I get this? I got this. I got this at the Jasper up in Jasper when Victoria and I went up and visited my daughter and my granddaughter and my son-in-law. And Jasper is where we stayed. We stayed at the Fairmont, the Jasper Park Lodge, and I made a tour I made the mistake of taking a tour into the golf pro shop. Don't do it. Don't do it. Brian, I sent you a photo. Yeah, I see it, but I'm going to have to check it out a little bit. Was it a nude? I'm afraid to open that, dog. It's sitting right there on my phone over there. I don't know if I should go look at it. No, dog, he wishes. I don't know. I've seen both of you guys with your clothes on. I don't think there's a check you could stroke big enough that would make me want to see either of you with your clothes off. I had good old fish and chips. Good for you. Well, I saw what you ate for dinner last night. You showed it to me, and I wouldn't touch it. I love fish and chips. Absolutely love. It's one of my favorite foods in the world. Crag Rat sent me a picture of his dinner last night. It was fish and chips, but on the side of the fucking plate, probably about a third of the plate was covered in mushy peas, and those peas were touching the fish. I'd have thrown the whole plate away. I wouldn't have touched any of it. The chips were in a separate dish, so I would have eaten those. But the fish and the plate with the whole thing would have gone into the garbage. We had pizza last night. Oh, nice. Pizza is a staple at our house. Both Victoria and I love pizza. It's again, it's one of those, favorite food things. Oh, nice. I own a Kenworth High Hood Tri-Drive. It's old but gold. Come up to high level and give it a whirl anytime. Mile, that's not that far. I may one day find my way up there. I'd love to drive it. What transmission do you run in that? KF is telling me to shut up. KF, do better. If you're going to insult me or take a shot at me, at least bring your A game. That's weak. Shut up. Piss off. Like, really, there's my response to you. Piss off. If you're gonna insult me and you're gonna fucking come at me, like, bring it. Bring your good shit. Make it really good. Insult the hell out of me. Whatever you got. Bring it. Telling me to shut up? That's weak. Go back to your PlayStation. Stephanie had fish and chips, cheese and gravy and butter and mushy peas. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. I looked at that. Where? You're an asshole. Anyway, he just opened an Iron Brew and he's drinking it. What a dick. Okay, here's his dinner last night. I don't know if any of you can see that. Can you see that? See over here? See those mushy peas over here? Isn't that the most disgusting thing you could absolutely do? That is disgusting. The chips on the side and the Pepsi, okay, not a problem. But those mushy peas, and it's touching the fish. That whole plate would go in the garbage. That whole plate would go in the garbage. It would be absolutely trash. It would go in the garbage. You couldn't pay me to eat that. And fish and chips are one of my favorite foods in the world. Yeah, dude, that is a cool hat. Oh, thanks. I actually, when I said I went into the pro shop, I did. I went into the pro shop, and it just happens to be because it's coming up the end of the season. A lot of their shit was on sale. So, like, I didn't pay, like, I think the hat was like $40-something regular. I paid less than that. I got a pair of brand new Adidas golf shoes, $100, right? Those shoes are substantially more, but they were $100, and they were in my size. I wear a 13. I got anniversary pack of golf balls. I got a bunch of shit out of there. So it was good, but I mean, like, the regular price stuff, if it wasn't the end of the season, it was the beginning of the season, I'm telling you right now, it would be absolutely fucking ridiculous, the price of shit in there. $18 speed. Okay, so it's just a straight 18, not an 18. Okay, well, 18 speed. I can, believe me, I can drive an 18 speed. I can do that with my eyes closed and my feet off the pedals, for Christ's sake. Yeah, Mark V, fish and chips. That's disgusting. Paul Conte was going to bring out a really good insult. Let's everybody pay attention to Paul here. Actually, we'll throw that up there and give Paul his 2 seconds. Another newfie bootlicking Americans. You're embarrassing. Paul, I tell you what, if I'm so bad at it and I'm embarrassing myself, why don't you go get your own channel and give it a try? And then we'll all come over to your channel and look at your mug and we'll see how well you do with it. Okay? Because I can tell you right now, Paul, does Paul Conte have a channel? He does not. He has, there's Paul Conte. He does not have a channel. He doesn't have nothing. So what is he? He's just a dumb fuck without a truck walking through the goddamn chat and wanted to see something. So wanted to say something interesting. Bootlicking Americans. Come on. I've spent more time, Paul, in the United States. As a Canadian, I've spent more time in the United States in my entire life than I probably have in Canada. Broke guy dinner. That's what the fish and chips is. I don't care what you want to call it. It's freaking delicious. Absolutely delicious. Love fish and chips. And in Canada, we get really good fish and chips. There's enough English people over here from England that open fish and chip shops, and you can get some really authentic, just like you're getting over in England, you can get it here in Canada. Mushy peas is wild. It's disgusting. It's like you would like Mile, if you were on a deserted island right now, if you were on a deserted island, and the only thing that comes between you starving to death and you eating the mushy peas, you would welcome the death. Honest to God. My dinner was buffalo meat sliders with homemade chips, although I was not asked. Hey, J Ray, I'll take that any day of the week. That's meat. That's real food. Mushy peas is disgusting. Mine was a smoked brisket. There you go. Look at this. We're slid right off. Nice guard dog. Love some brisket. No, I'll have to open a second can of Iron Brew. Piss off, you little pissing. I tried Iron Brew for the first time. It was one of my posts, and I liked it at Craig. Stephanie, did you try it? Did you try it? Follow me, fags. Please. You'd be the idiot walking off the cliff and nobody's watching, nobody's following you or watching you go or giving a shit. Man, these people think they can bother you. It's hilarious. It is. You're going to come in. Paul got his 2 seconds there. Again, I say this all the time, but Paul's sitting in his basement in his Spider-Man underwear, and his mom's upstairs fucking making his fucking lunch for him. Is probably his PB&J sandwich with a side of chicken noodle soup. And he's sitting there looking at his phone going, oh, look, there's my name on the screen. And I said something and he read it. That is the biggest stiffy you're going to get, Paul. And it's probably the biggest stiffy you've had in months. So have a nice day. Imagine trapped on an island with mushy peas and cream corn. Same thing. No, man, I'll drink salt water. You did, eh? You liked it? I love it. Man's got regular haters. Hey, you know what, John Deere? As long as they're picking on me, they're leaving somebody else alone, right? I got big shoulders. Bring it. You want to come at me? Come at me. I don't care. As long as you're picking on me, there may be some other poor bastard that you're not looking at. Maybe somebody else is not having as good a day. Maybe somebody else is, a little messed up today, or they're, anxiety, or they're stressed, or they're PTSD, or fucking whatever. But as long as they're picking on me, they're leaving those guys alone. So I don't care. Bring it. Chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side. I love homemade chicken noodle soup. I do. That's one thing I do miss. My mom made great chicken noodle soup. My mom made 2 things that were memorable for me as a kid: her lasagna and her chicken noodle soup. Both of which were off the level, next level, like excellent. Even I can't match her chicken noodle soup. I make like turkey stew and turkey soup, and I make like all kind of shit like that. But when I try to make chicken noodle soup, it comes up short. Paul's in his basement shaking hands with the unemployed. Well, there you go. I'm stoned now and laughing. Sorry, dog. I'll take responsibility for the laughing, but you know what? I won't take responsibility for getting you stoned. That one's on you, brother. That one's on you. Uh, got college football, Georgia versus Kentucky. Was that what's going on today? Good for you, bro. Thinking about coming up to Canada to see the scenery and advice and recommendations. How much time do you got, and how much do you want to see? Canada is a John Deere. Canada is a big fucking place. We are the second largest country in the world, square mile wise, right? So you think about that. What is it you want to see? How much time do you got? And how much money? How much money you want to spend? It's like any tourist going to tour anywhere. Um, do you want to see mountains? You come out to Alberta and BC. If you want to see prairies, but in the United States, you run through parts of Alberta, like the eastern side of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. It's no different than running right through fucking south Iowa, north South Dakota, right? It's flat and rolling and da 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 da, but it's beautiful to look at. But anywhere else, anything else you want to look at, Ontario is a beautiful province once you get out in north of all the major cities. I think once you get up past Bracebridge, you get into like North Bay to North Bay, Sudbury, and then you get up to like Sault Ste. Marie. All of that's a really nice drive. You get some really nice scenery. You get to see some good shit. You can do some camping if you camp, if that's something you want to do. If you're going to drive, definitely it's worth it. Take the drive. It's worth the drive. And then if you want to if you want to go east, you're going to go through Quebec. So for about a day, or not a day, probably about half a day, you won't talk to anybody because they all speak French. And a lot of them won't talk to you because you don't speak French. But once you get out of Quebec and into New Brunswick, then you know what? Then you've got the eastern provinces, and they are gorgeous, right? And then of course you'll get down into Halifax, Nova Scotia, and you will get down onto the East Coast, and you're down on the ocean, and there's no words that can describe the beautiful beauty down there. Anywhere from New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, get out onto PEI. Now that's the eastern seaboard. If you come in, if you're going west, then obviously you're coming out here. You're going to see prairies, and then you're going to go into the mountains. What's up with Ontario? Um, it's a nice place to visit and look at. Don't spend your money and don't stay too long. People in Ontario are bailing out just because they can't afford to live there anymore. Canada's a nice place on a list. One, because to Alberta. Alberta, I think, well, on a financial level, I think Alberta floats the whole country. Right, most of the majority of the money is coming out of Alberta, that's generated and made comes out of Alberta between the oil and gas. Now that's fine, but I lived in Toronto for 30 years. It's garbage. Well, dude, I'm 55 and I've only lived in Alberta for 6 months. So for 54 years and 6 months, I lived in Ontario. Um, I was born in Toronto, raised in Toronto. Well, born in Toronto, raised primarily. My parents, when I was born in Toronto, but when I was about three and a half, we moved out to Mississauga. So you get out to Mississauga, and then from Mississauga, I kind of bounced around. Once I left home when I was 17. So, from there, I kind of moved my way back into the city, into Toronto. But either way, yeah, Toronto is a shithole. It's a nice city to go visit. Don't get me. It's got lots of nice tourist attractions. Got shit to see. You go up the CN Tower. You check out the Rogers Center. As anybody that's over fucking 40, they call it the Sky Dome. They've got Ripley's. They've got a nice waterfront. You can go down Lakeshore, and it's beautiful. And you can see all of that and have a really good time. Take some money. Make sure you got your fucking credit card with you, or a boatload of cash, because it's not cheap. But once you're done with all of that, run west, young man, run west. Canadians pay too much taxes, and Canadians get paid too less. Everyone should move to the U.S. Well, I'll agree. I will agree with the taxes. We are probably the second or third highest tax country in the world. It's got to be up there. At one point, I think England was one, and this is years ago. England was the highest tax country, and then Canada was second. I don't think we're second anymore, but we're probably in the top five. And when you look at how our wages compare to what it costs us to live here, never mind just the taxes that we pay, but just our cost of living, Jason, how anybody's making a fucking making a wage today, how anybody's surviving is ridiculous. None of my kids can go buy a house, right? My kids all got college and university educations. Not one of them can go buy a fucking house today. You know, the only reason I'm able to afford to buy a house is because I was buying a house when I was younger, and you just kept turning them, and you eventually move and make money on this house, bigger down payment on the next house, and so much. But if I was a 23 or 24-year-old kid coming out of university or college right now, especially if you've got student loans or any kind of debt, are you fucking crazy? The average house, price house in Ontario is $750,000 or something like that. That's the average price house. Never mind the ones that are well into the over the $1 million mark. So yeah, it's a little pricey. And are we paid too less? I don't know. Are we paid too little? Yeah, I would have to agree with that, depending on the industry. Doctors are not paid enough. EMT people are not paid enough. Cops are not paid enough. Firefighters are not paid enough. Do the steel workers make enough? Yeah, I would say the steel workers are probably doing all right. But I guess if you want to take the average income over Canada, is it as high as it probably should be? No. I don't know what the average income is. There's a number out there. Somebody can probably Google it, but I don't know what it is. But and the other big problem I have with Ontario is that it's a liberal province, and it's going to be a liberal province till the day I die, and it's just too hard to swallow. It really is. I live in Alberta now, and it's a conservative province. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 seated liberals out here out of the whole province. You go to Ontario or British Columbia, right? British Columbia is either liberal or NDP, which is just farther liberal. And I just can't deal with that. I can't live with that anymore. I can't watch my tax dollars just absolutely get thrown away. And if you need proof of that, just look what the liberal federal government does with our tax dollars. Jason, you're Canadian. You know what I'm talking about. I'll probably end up back in South America. You know what? Me too. I like SA. You like SA? SA. What's SA? Sex Anonymous? No, I've never been to Sex Anonymous. I don't know. What's SA? British Columbia, Canada. I feel like I'm talking to my neighbors from the other side. Well, Mark, there you go. Climb over the mountain. I'm just on the other side of the mountain, right? If you come to Calgary, right, which is technically just on the other side of the mountain, right? When you come out of BC, you come down the Alberta side of the mountain. The first major city you run into is Calgary, and if you go another 45 miles east of that, I'm in Strathmore. So yeah, I'm not that far out of the way. I was boating in Port Credit, Canada today. It's a joke, just a disaster. Mile, you know what we used to do? So I'm gonna have a conversation with just Mile because he knows the area. We go when we were kids, we'd go up to we would go into Streetsville, right? Streetsville, Ontario. It's part of Mississauga, but there's an old road, excuse me, where there was an old mill, and it was built on the side of the Credit, right? The Credit River. Now it's long abandoned, and there was an old railroad bridge going across that thing there. And we used to go to Johnson and Magwood down at Mavis and Dairy Road, Dixie Road, Dairy Road and Dairy and Mavis, whatever. There was a company called Johnson and Magwood, and they would sell all the kids, all the industrial, like the earth movers and all that, all the inner tubes. They'd patch them, and then they'd sell them to the kids. So we'd go and buy all these inner tubes, and then we'd blow them up, and then we take them to that old part there up in Streetsville at the Credit River, and we'd take these big mesh bags, right? Now, mind you, we're like 14, 15 years old at this point. So we're thinking we're badass, right? So you got those mesh laundry bags, right? So you take those and you throw like 15 cans of beer in it, a bunch of like processed, vacuum sealed Ziploc baggies with some food in it. You tie it around your inner tube and you hang it in the water and it keeps your beer cold in it. And we would start there. And what we would do is we'd have like an older brother or one of the guy's older brothers. He'd leave a car down in Port Credit, right? So, and we'd start all the way in Streetsville, and it would take you all day. It would take you all day, and you would inner tube down the Credit River from Streetsville all the way down to Port Credit, right to the mouth of where Lake Ontario was, and you'd get at the very last minute you had to bail out of your tube and over to the side. But we would do that all day long, and by the time we got down to Port Credit, those of us that weren't puking off the side of our inner tube, we were laughing and absolutely wasted. And then, of course, somebody's big brother would pick us all up, take the air out. We'd take the air out of our tubes, and we'd all go home. But it would be an all-day endeavor. It's such a good time, man. Such a good time. Port Credit, I don't think I'd want to be there. I don't think I'd want to be in Port Credit today. It's been a long time since I've been down there. I make good money in Alberta. I'll stay here. You should. Now, I don't know what I don't know what you're doing in Alberta. No, I do know what you're doing in Alberta, but especially if you're doing logging, keep at it. That's where the money is. Heavy haul application, oil patch application, or gas application out here right now. It's those guys are making good money with no education. They're coming right out of fucking high school, and if they're willing to work for 5 years, 5-6 years of just going at it on the oil patch, they'll do really well. By the time some young kid comes out of school or comes out of college, and he'll go up to Fort Mac or he'll go out on the part of the oil patch, and he will work. He'll put his nose to the grindstone for, say, 6 years. I promise you, after 6 years, he's buying a house. Guaranteed goddamn to you. John Deere, it's slower pace of life and it's cheap way of living. It really is out here, Alberta. That's something that I really enjoy. It's the fact that it's a slower pace of life. The definition I give on that is like when you're in Ontario, if you take an anthill, a great big anthill, and you kick the top off it, all these ants just come flying out, and it's chaos everywhere. That's Ontario. You come out here and you see an anthill, you kick it over, 3 or 4 guys come out, they look around. Hey, how you doing, Bob? Hey, how you doing, Fred? How you doing over here? All right, what? Nothing going on over here. All right, see you later. That's Alberta. Shit gets done. People work hard, but there's not the get out of my way, I'm such a hurry attitude out here. And that's one of the beautiful things about living in Alberta. And it was one of the things that struck me years and years and years and years ago about being out here. Where are you at? If you don't mind me asking, I just told you I'm in Strathmore. What about your taxpayer money being thrown away to Israel? Oh, Farrell, don't talk to me about that. Don't even get me started on that. I'll probably get my channel taken down again, and I'll probably end up in YouTube jail again. That is an area for me that is very, very, I don't know. You know what? Because to talk about it, you're going to piss people off. And you know what? In most parts, I don't want to piss people off. But in other parts, I don't really care if I piss people off. If you want to know the answer to that, what do I care? What do I think about my taxpayer money being? I think it's atrocious. I think it's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting. It's shameful. It's disgusting, and it should technically be illegal. You think about this, Farrell, Florida man. In Canada, and we're going to apply this to the United States as well, because fuck, man, you guys have, however many billions Canada has thrown at Israel or overseas to the Ukraine or any of the, however many billions we've thrown, you guys have thrown probably 20 times that. So you think about that. The 20 times what Canada sent is what the America sent, but let's just use Canada for the amount of for the billions of dollars that we've sent over to Israel Ukraine, other countries like that, if we kept that money in-house, we have enough money to fucking end homelessness in Canada, fix our education system in Canada, take care of the seniors in Canada, fix our medical system in Canada, and probably most and foremost and most importantly, there wouldn't be a single military veteran in Canada wanting for anything. Right? When these guys are coming back, or guys and girls are coming back from overseas and they're suffering PTSD and they've got issues and they got problems, and they're like, they are fucked in the head, and they're coming back to Canada, and our government's going, well, okay, we'll throw a little extra training at you, and there, see you later, have a nice life. Unacceptable. Unacceptable on all levels. So, and the Americans are the same way. Okay. If you took all the money that was just in the last 7 years or 8 years between Ukraine, Israel, this, that, and other things under the sun, if you took all of that money and you put it into our own country, we could have solved all of those issues. And then whatever money's left over, you know what? Help somebody else out. Let's help out a couple other countries that need some help. But I think it's just shameful for what Canada, what the Liberal or Mark Carney government has done with our tax dollars, because they've printed money, which has raised inflation, raised interest rates, raised everything. They printed money that because they didn't have any to send. There's not enough fucking people. There's 37 million people or 47 million people in all of Canada. Where do you get tax dollar revenue to send billions of dollars overseas and get nothing in return for it? Where does that revenue come from? There's only one way to do that in Canada, and that's to print it, you know. And they did. SA is the abbreviation for South America, among other things. Okay, what do I think about South America? I'd love to be in South America. Mark V, we live in Texas. I've spent a lot of time in Texas. We used to do dedicated runs for Prismium. We were taking cable, the big cable reels, big spools of cable, and we used to come out of Hawkesbury, Ontario, Canada, and we'd come from there, and we'd run down Texas, and we do usually 3 or 4 drops. So you'd either do Dallas, San Antonio, or Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, or you do Austin, San Antonio, and Laredo. And you do 3 drops, and then we'd run across the I-10 into Houston. Usually going into the port, we'd pick up some steel plates, and we'd run that back to Montreal or something like that. Love Texas, though. Used to laugh our ass off, Mark, as Canadians. We'd get to the first drop, let's just say in Austin, right? We get to the first drop in Austin, and all these Latin American guys come out, and they're on the forklifts, and they're got their shit, and they come out, and you're pulling the chains off your truck, and I'm standing there in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and a pair of work boots and a ball cap, and they're coming out, and they've got like winter pants on, like thermal pants, a hoodie, a coat, right? A coat, and it's buttoned up, and a toque. Right. And they're looking at us, and the first thing they go is like, they look at you and go, hey man, how's it going? You got paperwork? Yeah. Canadian, eh? It's like, yeah. How could you tell? Well, you're standing here and you can see you can see our breath, but you're still wearing t-shirts. So we used to laugh at that. I went whitewater rafting in a little inner tube and almost died. Well, that's why you used the old combines and the old sprayers, like the big ones. That's why you use those. Because even if you pop a small leak, it's going to take hours for the tire to deflate. Man, that's so funny. You're from where I'm from. That's so old school. Yeah, we used to go tubing. We used to love it. Morning 21. Good to see you, brother. How the hell are you? Over in the big old state of Pennsylvania, eh? I haven't seen Tyke in a while. Wonder if Customs got them bent over and lubed up yet. Oh, you got to know it. And they put sand in their lube over there. American and Canadian have the same issues. Some are just more vast than others. Well, it's just a population density problem, right? We got a bigger country in Canada, square mile wise, but we're only 1/10 your population. Think about this, John Deere, the state of California has more people in it than my entire country, right? So that's when you think about it in that sense, right? DGAF. I'm not up to date on that. Not sure what you're talking about. Not being political, but Biden Harris did the same thing here. Trudeau killed us, absolutely buried this country, and Carney is just still digging the hole. Like we're not even done yet, right? If we're not even done yet, Carney's still digging the hole. God save us all. I don't even believe in God, for crying out loud. Mark, he said Canada and America have done it, but America is definitely worse. Um, I don't know if it's worse. Again, it's just in numbers, right? Canada has 47 million people. You got 350 million. So let's say almost 10 times our population. So you're going to give 10 times as much money away, right? You've got 10 times the tax revenue coming in. I guess I don't know how that works. Texas is the best bike scene. I like the bike scene and I love the truck scene down in Texas. The old pickups are out there. You guys are running the old farm trucks that are just still all shined up and polished and running. And some of them are lowered, raised, or just in mint condition. Love that. Love that out of Texas. Motorcycles, yes, absolutely. You guys got a great bike scene down there, but you've also got a really good scene like your trucks, like your big trucks, like your Freightliners, your Peace. Anybody down in Texas that's running old iron, they're immaculately kept, right? Well, first of all, there's no rust, right? You guys don't get snow or don't get a lot of snow, and you don't throw salt on the roads, and you're not spraying your roads with calcium and all that kind of shit that rots the hell out of everything. But even you're old, it's not uncommon to be down. You're running anywhere across the 40 or down the 35 or across the 10 or any of the majors. And it's not uncommon to see like a 70, 75, 80, Kenworth, Peterbilt, the old GMC whites, and these guys got them in pristine condition, shined up, rims are shining, trucks on, chrome's going, lights are working, and they're beautiful. You see that in Texas. You see that in a couple other places as well, but I think Texas is primarily, from what I've seen, is probably the biggest one for that. Yeah, California and Portland are havoc right now. Well, funny, John Deere. It's funny that California's in havoc, and people are bailing out of California. So all these Democrats, lifelong Democrats, right? Or if you're a Canadian, there'd be a liberal, right? But let's say all the lifelong Democrats in California are bailing out right now at a record pace. And where are they going? John Deere, where are they going? They're going where Mile is where they're going. And they're trying to fill up Texas is what they're trying to do. And it's funny that there's been a couple of instances where people have gone from California to Texas and then tried to institute certain policies and shit that they had in California and Texas, and the people in Texas just literally said fuck off and go away. We will not put up with it. It's not going to happen here. You're welcome to come here, live here, pay tax dollars, but shut the fuck up. And I think that's great. I agree with that. And Alberta is very much like that as well. Alberta is very much like that. It is a conservative state. That means it's a Republican. It's not a state; it's a province, but it's a conservative province. And although we are a little more tolerant than, say, Texas is, when it comes to the liberal bidding and like our province stands up to the federal government because they're liberal, and it's like, no, you will not take our money, you will not take our gas, you will not take our oil, and if you do, you're going to pay for it. Our premier and our government here has stood up very well to the liberals, and so they should. And that's another reason why people are just coming here. They're just tired of living with Democrats and tired of living with liberals. It's and the wasteful spending and the tax dollars, and our taxes keep going up. And one of the reasons is the money's just being very, very, very stupidly spent and given away. You want to give me $9 billion? I tell you what, Carney, you give me $9 billion. The only thing out of that $9 billion, the only thing I'm going to buy for myself is I'm going to buy myself a new bike The rest of it's going to go back into the country. Can you say that, Mark Carney? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You'd be down in Brazil with goddamn Cragrat. That's where you'd be. You know, our fucking prime minister. This guy took a dive, and he's a Canadian prime minister, but he's also a business owner, and he owns his own company and da 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 da. And what did he do? He took his entire company and moved it to New York. So he just unemployed a bunch of Canadians and hired a bunch of Americans. How do you do that? And then win an election? I don't know. Vote Carney? Oh, GB, that's not even funny. We take pride in Texas, and hopefully you come back soon for your vacation. We'd love to have you. Mark, I got no problem coming down to Texas. I really do. I love it down there. I've seen that, not just Texas though. No, you're right, John Deere. It's not just Texas. They're moving where? They're moving Arizona. They're moving farther west or farther east. And the funny thing is, the places that they're moving to are not tolerating the bullshit. Right? You can't bring, it's almost like they're immigrants coming out of California. Somebody from India or Pakistan or Afghanistan or Azerbaijan or Uzbekistan, you can't come to Canada or you can't come to the United States, live here and expect to live by the rules that you were living with in Pakistan or Afghanistan or anything like that. You have to live by the rules that are set forth by the people of Canada and the US. Well, California should actually be looked at as its own country instead of a state. And the people moving from California should be treated like fucking immigrants. So when you immigrate from California to Texas, well, you better be you should be expected to behave in a manner that is suitable to the people that you're living with. You've now moved to Texas. Well, you didn't move there because, things were set fantastic and you were loving the California life. You're moving there for some reason. Things are obviously sucked for you in California. So why would you want to move to California and then instill the same fucking stupid ideologies and things that were going on in California? Leave California alone. Go to Texas, become a good fucking Texan, buy a gun, get a horse, get a pickup truck, work on a ranch, and shut the fuck up and stop complaining, because life will not get any better than that. Period. Good morning, Karen. Good to see you. Good. Karen's making sure we all know she's here. Good morning. And I think she's standing on her balcony screaming it right now. Good morning, Brian in chat. I'm here. Don't give me. I said I wasn't going to drink these, but now I'm so goddamn thirsty right now. I'd drink anything. Don't get me wrong. John Deere, everything that I'm saying here, every single thing here is nothing. It's just my opinion, right? It's just how I feel, and it's just my opinion. I am not stating facts. I am not stating numbers. I'm not stating anything. If you want to talk trucks and trucking and that kind of shit, yeah, we're going to get a little more technical and we're going to talk about stuff. But when we're talking about stuff like this is just my opinion. It's my own life experience from being in Texas or being wherever I've been and traveled and been and seen. That's all we're talking about here. So, if you don't agree with my opinion and you're entitled to that, speak up. I got no problem with that. What is the Pixel? What is this stream about? Well, so far we've talked about trucks, like big trucks, Peterbilt's, Freightliners, Kenworths. We've talked about cars. We talked about European cars and engines and shit like that. We've talked about what else we talked about? We've talked about a little bit of politics. We have not spoken about religion. We're not going to even touch that subject. We have talked about Karen Manthorn being here. She just got here and she's late, which is very uncommon for Karen. It really is. But here we go.
Karen Manthorn, when she
she's not cooking up a storm. She's serving it up hot on the Wheel Burner Express.
Here you go, Karen. Welcome. Thank God you're here. Thank God you're here. I've just been to the fridge for an Iron Brew number 3. Sorry, Brian. You're killing me. If I drank 3 Iron Brews in a day, well, actually, I have drank 3 Iron, but I got to be close to a bathroom. Iron Brew goes through me like beer used to, right? You rent them. You drink the first 6 and you're good, but as soon as you pop that cork, it's every 2 beer after that, man. Oh, well, we've talked about weight loss, weight gain, how to do it, how not to do it, advice. So, we just talked about a lot of shit like that. Talked about a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. Damn, Karen got her own theme song. Oh, well, stick around, John Deere. Maybe you get one too. You never know. Red Bull or Gatorade? Gatorade. If I drink too much Red Bull, like if I drink a regular small size Red Bull, I'm good. The crash ain't too bad. I'm kind of all right with it. But if I drink one of the taller ones or one of the bigger ones, that one kind of hurts me a bit. I used to abuse them like years ago when driving. I used to be like, I'd be drinking them like 3, 4 a day, and I'd just be vibrating. My hands would be like that, shaking. So I kind of got away with that. Got away from trying to use the Gatorade or the power drinks for that kind of shit. Occasionally, once in a while, like we buy a case of it and it's in here and it might last a couple of months. Victoria takes them to work when she works over, she flips over and she's on the night shift. Usually, she starts work at 6:30 at night, and usually by about midnight, she's got a crash coming on, so she'll crack a Red Bull and that'll get her through. But I don't usually do it. They have Iron Brew in Canada. Nicholas, they do. But man, it cost for like a regular bottle, like it's $3.49 for a regular bottle of Iron Brew. And I'm talking like, like a Coke bottle, like a small, like the regular, what is those, 300 mils or 300, whatever. It's $3.49 for one of those. Meanwhile, Crag Rat's over there drinking them like they're fucking slushies, and he's probably paying about 70 cents Canadian for them. Oh, I figured I'd stop in before I head out to finish up errands to pick up road trip food. There you go. Road trip food. I mix Gatorade and vodka. Well, you can, but I don't. Frog Ride, before original recipe, Iron Brew is expensive in the homeland because of the sugar tax. No shit. See, I don't know anything about it. I know that it's made in Scotland. That's all I know about it. And I know it's cheaper for Crag Rat over in the UK to drink it, in England to drink it and buy it, than it is for me, because they're not sticking it on a goddamn ocean liner and transporting it and, having to pay for those kind of fees as well. So that, what's that in British sterling? I don't know Monopoly, my dude, Nicholas. It's probably, like I said, whatever, $3.49 Canadian is probably a dollar something sterling, a pound, like a £1 25 or something like that. It's 65p a pint can out of Poundland. Guard Dog, you're gonna get banned in a minute. Nalo Shopify. What are your thoughts on Sudanese people? What about them? What do you want to know about them? I don't know anything about them, but like, what are my thoughts? Should they be what? I kind of like when people ask me, what's your opinion on Indians? What's your opinion on Ukrainians? What's your opinion on Russian people? What's your opinion on Americans? What's your opinion? What about them? What about them? There's no opinion on them. They got every right to be here and do what they're doing, and as I do. There's no There's no what's your opinion on Sudanese. They have the right to live. They have the right to everything that I'm entitled to. Why should it be any different? 65p a pint can out of penalty. Okay. Yes, we are driving straight through again. You're crazy. I'm not reading those comments by Guard Dog. Yeah, he can go fuck himself. Tyke is still here. How's your ass, Tyke? Did they at least use Vaseline or you give you some lube? Bog-eyed 69p for the pint cans in Home Bargains, but the original 1901 recipe is like £1.50 for a wee can. I love how you guys over there talk about wee. It's a wee can, like instead of saying for a little can or a small can, it's a wee can. Oh, she's just a wee short little thing. Oh, she's just a wee. You guys are learn to speak fucking English for Christ's sake. You watched the new Leonardo DiCaprio movie? I have not. I'm waiting because F1 with Brad Pitt is still on Apple, but you got to pay for it. And I'm not paying for a fucking movie. It'll eventually come out and I'll be able, but that's the one I'm waiting for right now. I've seen enough of the previews for it, and I've seen enough of the clips for it that it's like, okay, I got to watch that. I really got to watch that. Look at that. Emilio is hi there. How you doing? Dots or feathers? Dude, come on. Behave. We don't talk like that. Bog-eyed Cumbria is basically Lancashire. I used to live in Barrow in fuck. Again, guys, English, please. Mark V, take care. I'm out of here. We'll follow, brother. Have a good weekend. You too, Mark. I'll be doing this again tomorrow. If you got nothing to do tomorrow morning, pop in, say hi, be good, cause some shit, whatever. If you got it, smoke it. If you got it, drink it. One will have their no what? One will have their now I speak the king. Fuck. Yeah, good job there. That's some damn good English. How bad is it when an Englishman is speaking in English and a Canadian guy has to fucking translate it? Fucking hell, Nicholas Barrow, and you survived. I'm from. Okay, that's nice. You two want a minute? Like you guys can, you want a couple of minutes? We can just leave it alone here. You guys can go hang out if you want, or I'll turn the stream down. You guys can get intimate if you want. Hey man, you want to go to a demolition derby? Evan, only if I can drive one of the cars. You get the car and you make it available, and I'll be happy to drive it, and then I'll be happy to go to demolition derby. I've seen a million of them, and I enjoy them. They're fun, but basically, it's like smash up everything until the last car can't move. It's a good time. Are you still at your brother's house? No, I'm at my own place now. I'm back home. I was only house sitting for 4 or 5 days, so no, I'm back. I'm back in my house now. Long live the kingdom of that, whatever that says. Nicholas is Jockinese. No one will understand. There is word at the farmer's fair. I'm going tonight with a case. Which farmer's fair? There's farmer's fairs all over the goddamn place. Strathmore has a farmer's fair. All the little towns in between Calgary and Strathmore, a lot of them have farmer's fairs. I don't know which farmer's fair you're at, Evan. And I can't remember. I would have heard about it if there was one in Strathmore. So, yeah, you guys read that. I'm not even going to try. I'm going to finish this, and then I think I'm going to call it a day. Got about 3 hours and 20 minutes in here. And any minute now that that old age thing is going to kick in, and I'm going to have to pee. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Even at 55 and looking as sexy as I am, I'm still I'm still prone to, the laws of nature. And, you drink 2 cans of pop and a fucking coffee. It's got to go somewhere, right? So where's it going? I'm in Ontario. It's the Markham Fair. Markham's Fair. The Markham Fair. There you go. I know Markham really well. I know Markham very, very well. A new life update. Well, you know what, John Deere, if I have to live it, you have to hear about it. So how's that? I didn't force you to sit here and listen to my big fat mouth today. You're doing that on your own. Quiet river sounds, slow rainfall. Now John's trying to make me piss myself. Where in Jockland are you, Nicholas? Alberta supremacy up, cowboy. There you go. There you go. Hear the waves. Dog, you're killing me. That's guard dog's trying to put me in an awkward, unpleasant situation to make me feel uncomfortable, but I know he's doing it with love. Like, I know that guard dog loves me and that he respects me, but he is an asshole. He really is sometimes, and he knows I love him back, but he's still an asshole. Have you ever been to the Markham Fair? I've been going since public school outings. Evan, I've never been to the Markham Fair. I have only done business in Markham, driven through Markham. I've never lived there. I don't know anybody that lives there. I've gone through it, around it, on it, in it, but I've never lived there. So, um, but I know where Markham is, obviously. I know Dundee. I used to live in Aberdeen over 20 years ago. It was it If it was reversed, you'd do the same. Oh, dog, I'd be doing it. I'd be sitting here right now with this can of pop, pouring it into the glass so you could hear the trickle through the phone. Okay. The only difference is you can't do that to me right now because I can't hear you. But if it was me, I'd be doing it to you. I'd have sound effects going with waves rolling and ocean sounds and oh yeah. I guarantee you, you'd be peeing in your recliner right now, watching your football game, eating your wings. Are you heavy haul? Big John, not anymore. I'm retired now. I'm retired from driving. I gave up I sold my truck. I gave up driving about 5.5, 6 months ago. So, but I was previous to that. I was the company I was working for out of Ontario. I was doing heavy haul, and for years before that, with another company, with Van Hal, I was doing heavy haul and oversize. So I haven't done it. I don't do it anymore. Obviously, I'm not driving. What do you do since being 45 up for fun? What the hell are you talking about? What do I do for fun? I don't know. I don't know. I That's kind of like my own personal life. Like, what do I do for fun? I like to hang out with good friends. I like to sit around and talk. I really do. I like a good debate. I do meth. Darren, there you go. You do meth. Um, I enjoy different foods now. Now I'm enjoying, that I'm not working, and I have more time. I'm enjoying some nicer, better foods. I like to travel. Being in Alberta, I am 2 hours into the mountains. I can get into Canmore, Banff in 2 hours, and in 4 hours or 5 hours, I can be up in Jasper. And so, do I love that? I love that. That is probably one of the biggest factors of enjoyment for me that I enjoy doing. And of course, I go with my girlfriend, and Victoria loves it just as much as I do. So it's something we have in common. We can walk the streets of Canmore, or we can walk the streets of Banff, or we can just drive through the mountains and stop on the side of the road and just sit there and talk and look and have it. Love it. Be right back. Just putting the Bell's Scotch pies in the oven. There you go. I was OTR, but couldn't manage to sleep with the shifting hours. Uh, Pantera, one of the things I never suffered from, believe it or not, regardless of what the hours, um, different time zones, if that's what you're talking about, or even different hours of service, going from Canadian hours of service to US hours of service, or even just whatever, running at night, running at the day, sleeping in the afternoon. I never suffered from that. I was always one of those. I'm one of those guys that, literally, I woke up. Whatever. What time is it here? It's 11 o'clock. So I've been awake since 4:30 this morning. So, but still, I could go right now, lay down and go to bed and fall asleep. I do not have a problem with that. I've never had a problem with it in my truck. I've always been able to sleep and get me up, get the appropriate amount of rest that I've needed to do the job. Although I do know a lot of guys right now that they got sleep apnea, they got other problems, and they've got CPAP machines in their trucks, and that's just basically what they got to do, just so they can get the sleep that they need. I don't suffer from that. I play board games like a fucking nerd. Nothing wrong with that. I like Okay, I'm old school, right? I'm old fashioned. I like Monopoly. The problem I have with Monopoly is that I take it too seriously, and I make it my mission to crush everybody I'm playing with. And then the trash talking starts, and people's feelings get hurt, and somebody's walking away crying. And usually, so it's not that much fun. But I love Monopoly. The other issue I've got is when it comes to like Monopoly and games like that, if you're playing against or playing with another person, like in my case, when I'm playing against my girlfriend or play against my girlfriend, she's as competitive as me. So next thing for the 2 hours that you're playing Monopoly, you are not friends, and you almost have to make a pact that you look at each other before you start the game, that anything I say to you in the next 2 hours does not count in our relationship, right? And she's the same thing, because when the trash talking starts, but I love that. You want to give me a good board game? I play chess. I play crib. I play poker. Went to the casino last weekend. Had a good time with that. Um, so those are things that I really enjoy. I do love going to casinos. I certainly don't make a habit of it, but I do enjoy it. Having mushy peas again, well, you're a sick individual. There's something seriously fucking wrong with you. What is this podcast about? Didn't you realize? Yeah, that's what this podcast is about. Do you poop while driving? Can you? Rostov, can you? A simple question. Can you poop while you're driving? Whether it be your car, your truck, you're riding your motorcycle, maybe on your bicycle you could, but think about what you're saying. Do vegan to stop funding animal abuse. Animal abuse. Late night ramblings. That's a curious thing to say. That's a curious thing to say. Stop animal abuse. Late night ramblings. Princess of Peace is live. PayPal. Okay. Let's see what late night ramblings has. It's an interesting. That's an interesting. Um, it's an interesting comment, because what animal abuse am I preventing by eating vegan? Because I can tell you this right now, late night, for all of the vegans that think, oh, because I'm vegan and I don't eat animals, right? Or I'm not funding animal abuse. I tell you right now, all the food, like the natural food that you guys supposedly eat or that's grown or all of that, when all of that shit gets done, do you know how many animals you guys kill? Right? When you plow a field to plant a crop so you can feed your vegan face non-animal byproduct, and when you plow that field and you're killing everything within a foot from the surface down just to plow that field. So how are you any better? You've killed every field mouse, grouse, chipmunk, squirrel, fucking worms, anything. So you can't go through life as a vegan saying that you're a saint. Are you killing animals? Sure you are. Sure you are. Don't tell me you're not. Right? Are you taking those animals to a slaughterhouse for processing? No. But to a degree, you're killing them so you can eat. I play board games that cost a couple of $100. None of these games you can buy at a supermarket. I'm not up to that. Troy's Rise, I bet you shit standing up. No. I may have tried it once or twice when I was younger, but I've not done that in a while. Yeah, we all shit standing up, bud. We don't wipe either. Yeah, I love to play crib. Love card games, right? Love poker, love blackjack, I love cribbage. I like to play chess. How do you know if someone is a vegan? Don't worry, they'll make sure to tell you. It's a very good. That's a very good point. Are you a veteran? Poker? No, I'm not a veteran. I wish I was. I really, truly wish I was. Um, I have very few regrets in my life. I don't have a lot of regrets. I've done everything that I've pretty much wanted to do, and any of the mistakes that I've made in my life, or people or whatever that I fucked up, I've had the opportunity to go back and make my amends and fix those. So I have very few regrets. But one of the regrets that I do have is that I never served my country. I never did military service, and I regret that. I truly do. And that's kind of why today, that to the best of my ability, and I've kind of instilled it into my kids as well, that when you're sitting in a restaurant and you see a couple of soldiers in uniform sitting at a couple tables over, and they've ordered a meal and they're sitting there eating, pick up the tab. Don't let them know you're doing it, but pick up the tab. Or if you're at a fast food restaurant, right? Or fast food, if you're at Subway, McDonald's, whatever, and there's a couple of guys behind you, or there's a soldier behind you, buy his lunch. Simple things like that. It's not a lot. It's nowhere even coming close to being, serving my country, everything like that. But it's a little thing like that we try to do, just to show our respect. Try to get him to piss his pants. Age safety narc, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, man. What are you doing here? I'm just winding this down. We've been live for about 3 hours and 30 minutes, so I'm just kind of winding this down. I got we're pretty much out of shit to talk about. I'll come up with some new stuff tomorrow and we'll try again. I play with hospital machines and medication at the moment. I did that. I did that. Not the hospital machines, but believe me, I played with a lot of medication in my day. Come one at Nicholas Taylor's. Need one great joke. You guys are really working on this, are guard dog? Pick up a mirror. There you go. Serving your country. That's all propaganda. You're serving the higher ups to a degree, yeah. But when I was young, remember, I'm 55. So when I would have served the military, I would have come out of high school probably at 18, college, whatever, and then maybe join the military, join the service, and at 18 and got my college or university degree or education through the service. So back then, Nathan, I agree with you now, but back then when I was doing it, it was a little different. It was actually a lot different. It really was. You were serving your country back then. Now you are serving, it's a propaganda, and you are serving a lot of the higher ups. And what's scary, Nathan, is in Canada, your commander in chief is Mark Carney. If that asshole was in my swimming pool drowning, the only way I would save his life would be to take my foot off his head. Okay? Not my commander in chief. We have a homeless vet sleeping rough sometimes. I feed him and let him use my shower. There you go. You know what? It's not a lot. I don't do a lot, but anything that I do, and like I said, it's something that's been instilled in my kids as well. It's something my kids have seen me do it. My kids have seen me do it. Um, and it's something that I've done. Do I do it all the time? No. It's just stuff that I've done, yeah, but it's the least I can do. And you really don't see a lot of military veterans walking around in uniform these days unless you're in Ottawa. Anyway, Did you know Germany invented sparkling water? Well, who else would mix gas with water? Oh, dude, I can't believe I read that and didn't read that first. Crag Rat, I would not have read that. Dude, you know better. I look negatively towards people in the military. They're basically the Illuminati gang members to me. Well, you know what? That's fine. But if in the time of war, if something happens in the time of war, Nathan, are you going to pick up a weapon, put a uniform on, and pick up a weapon and defend your country? Or would you rather have there's already somebody there doing it? Somebody's got to pick up a weapon. Somebody's got to defend. I enjoy the life that I live only because my grandfathers and my uncles and all of them went and served and defended this country. And that's why I have the ability to live the way I live today. Period. You know, that has nothing to do with being part of an Illuminati or anything like that. It's as simple as that. Jesus H Christ. You know what? I took okay. That's all I'm going to say about that. We don't need to get too deep into that. It's just a little bit of help here and there. Like I said, our it's a shame that any of us, any Canadian, should have to support or help a military veteran or a current active member. It shouldn't have to happen, right? There are more than enough tax dollars generated to take care of that for us and to help them when they get back. It's just not designated and it's not being used for that. Anyway, you know what? Drinks are done. And now, thanks to Guard Dog, I got to go. He's sitting in his lazy boy right now, giggling his ass off. He's probably covered in chicken wing sauce, right? All across the face, his fingers all the way up to both elbows. He's probably covered in chicken wing sauce and drinking Gatorade and vodka, but he's still happy enough shit went on. He's got to make me pee. Anyway, I got 15 veterans working on my ranch. I hope every day you walk out and thank them for their service, John. Anyway, guys, you know what? Okay, I was right. Yep. Dog. Not yet. Yeah, you're working on it. Whatever. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Be good to each other. Don't fuck yourself over. Enjoy yourself. How do you end this thing? I'm just kidding. See you later.